Sorry, we're just going to give administration another 2 minutes to figure out if we can get through our technical difficulties. We'll start shortly. Okay, Laura, we're just gonna we're good to go. All right. Welcome to the regular council meeting of June 25th. We'll call it to order. A few housekeeping items before. If you have a cell phone, if you could please turn it to off or to vibrate. Please note that council meetings are being live streamed, recorded, and retained. All personal information collected will be managed in accordance with the ATIA, the Access to Information Act. If you are speaking at a public hearing, if you could, if you're addressing council, if you could come forward to the podium there, the mic will be live. And we ask that you state and spell your name for the record just to ensure that we have the minutes correct. With that, I'll start with introductions first, and we'll start with Ryan, please.
Good morning, Ryan Morrison, Director of Operational Services. Good morning, Christopher Ashton, Director of Legislative, Community and Agricultural Services.
Good morning, Jessica Ross, Assistant Director of Planning and Development Services.
Jeff Holmes, Chief Administrative Officer.
Morning, Greg Harris, Division 2 Counselor.
Good morning, Jennifer Letts, Division 7 Counselor.
Good morning, Alan Miller, Division 3 Counselor.
And good morning, Angela Albers, Division 5 Counselor in Reeve.
Good morning, Peggy Johnson, Division 6 Counselor.
Tiffany Nixon, Division 4.
Good morning, Dwayne Fulton, Division 1 Counselor.
Good morning, Laura Campmans, Executive Assistant.
Good morning, Rayanne Pohl, Planner.
Good morning, Shelley French, Communications.
Thank you. And we have an agenda in front of us. Is there any changes to the agenda? Seeing none, could I have a motion to adopt the agenda made by Councillor Fulton? Any further discussion? I'll call to question. All in favor? And that motion's carried. And we do have regular council minutes of June 11th. Is there any errors or omissions in those minutes? No. Seeing none, I'll look for a motion to adopt the minutes. Moved by Councillor Miller. Any further discussion? I'll call to question. All in favor? And that motion is carried. So I should have mentioned right at the beginning, we do have 2 delegations today. So we have a recognition of a committee member at 11:45, and we have stars coming in at noon. And so wherever we are in the agenda, we will endeavor to make sure that we get to those delegations as close to those times as possible. So we will start with our public hearings. Agenda item 4.1. This is bylaw number LU 1925, being a bylaw of Mountain View County in the province of Alberta to amend land use bylaw number 1024 affecting the southeast, 2632-1 west of the 5th, Plan 95-12713, Lot 1 pursuant to the Municipal Government Act. This received first reading on May 21st, 2025. And with that, I will open the public hearing and turn it over to planning, please.
Thank you. The beginning of the presentation starts on page 23 of the agenda. The applicants are Robert and Alina Turville, and the landowners are Brenda and William Turville. This application is proposing to redesignate an approximate 7.57 acres from Agricultural District A to Residential Farmstead District. The next slide is the location map and shows that the subject lands are in the rural neighborhood of Natook, just over 4 kilometers east from the town of Olds. The next slide is the figure 3 map from the municipal development plan and shows that the subject lands are within the agricultural preservation area. Page 26 of the agenda is the redesignation site sketch. The application is seeking to redesignate an approximate 7.57 acres to residential farmstead district and surrounds the residential area of the original farmstead for the quarter. The subsequent subdivision application is seeking to create the second title for the quarter. You can see that the site is accessed via Range Road 11 to the east and that Highway 2 is located just east of the Range Road. This slide shows the surrounding land use map. You can see the subject quarter is surrounded by agricultural zone land. 5 of the neighboring quarters are currently unsubdivided and 3 contain 2 titles. This is an oil and gas facilities map and shows that there are a few facilities surrounding the subject quarter to the east, west, and south that also include some sour natural gas pipelines. The subject quarter contains 7 pipelines and 1 suspended oil well. However, all are well removed from the proposal, with the closest facility being over 205 meters to the south. During the circulation process, the necessary oil and gas facility operators were notified about the proposal and no comments of conditions or concern were received. The next slide is a topography and water map for the area. According to AgriSID, the landform is considered undulating high relief. You can see there are unclassified creeks to the north and south of the proposal. Having a closer look at the subject quarter, you can see it appears relatively flat, but naturally drains to the east. During the site visit, it was noted that the unclassified creek that bisects the quarter's northeast corner did contain some water, while the unclassified creek south of the proposal appeared to be seasonal in nature. The next slide shows an environmental scan map. You can see there are no environmentally significant areas identified within or surrounding the subject quarter. Looking closer at the quarter, the environmental scan map shows that according to Alberta Merged Wetland Inventory data, the proposal and the northeast corner of the quarter may contain wetlands. However, during the site visit, it was noted that the proposal did not appear to contain any wetlands, and this may only apply to the areas surrounding portions of the unclassified creek. This next slide goes over available soil data. The quarter does contain productive agricultural lands, with Canada Land Inventory rating the soils as Class 1. AgriSID shows that the majority of the soils have only moderate limitations, with a few areas that may have very severe limitations due to drainage. The farmland field sheet shows that the soils with the greatest limitations surround the unclassified creek within the northeast portion of the quarter, while the remaining lands contain the majority of the better quality soils, having farmland assessment ratings that range from 81.4 to 89.8%. The areas north of the proposal appear to have been used as pasture land, while the remaining lands within the quarter have been used for cultivation. This slide shows the site dimensions sketch showing the proposal along the east side of the quarter. The proposal encompasses the areas of the farmstead that have been used for residential purposes. The proposed south, west, and north boundaries follow shelter belts, while the northeast boundary encompasses the access to the site but is located south of the unclassified creek. When the application was first submitted, the proposed northeast boundary was more angled and crossed over the unclassified creek within the northeast corner of the quarter. The proposed parcel was 8.58 acres. Following a site visit, administration reached out to the applicants and landowner to understand if the areas north of the creek, which were included in the original proposal, could actually be used with the subdivision, or whether the proposal's northeast boundary should be reconfigured. The landowner confirmed that the boundary should follow the edge of the creek. The adjusted configuration resulted in the proposed parcel being reduced to 7.57 acres. Beginning on page 36 of the agenda are some photos that were taken during the site visit. This slide looks at the approximate location of the north and south boundaries. Photo A shows the southeast corner of the proposal located just south of the driveway to the farmstead. Photo B shows the northeast corner of the proposal, and you can see how this boundary would be located just south of the bank for the unclassified creek. The areas north of the creek have been used as pasture land. This next slide shows views of the proposal's north boundary. Photo A was taken from the northwest corner of the proposed parcel. On the right side of this image, you can see a Quonset that's intended to remain with the rest of the quarter section. If the application is approved, the structure will likely need a setback relaxation from the new property line. Photo B shows how the proposal would contain the shelter belt, but the proposed boundary allows the creek to remain entirely within the balance of the quarter. This next slide shows views of the proposed south boundary. You can see in these images that the proposal would contain the shelter belt and that the cultivated land would remain within the proposed balance. This slide shows the development within the proposal, which consists of a dwelling, a chicken coop, a few animal shelters, as well as a few RVs and trailers stored on site. The applicant has stated that they would like to replace this dwelling and improve the site. This next slide shows views of the proposed remainder. The images show the south portion of the quarter, which you can see has been used for cultivation. This slide shows some views north of the north portions of the proposed remainder. Photo A shows the area surrounding the unclassified creek. Photo B shows an area where topsoil had been deposited from a nearby site that was being developed many years ago. The applicant confirmed that the soil has not been distributed to other sites and that the area will be used together with the agricultural lands. This slide looks at development within the proposed remainder, which consists of an older dwelling that is planned to be removed, a detached garage, a Quonset, an old barn, paddocks, and several sheds. The application states that they would like to remove many of these structures to increase the agricultural use of the quarter. This slide looks at access and sight lines to the proposal and the remainder, both from Range Road 11. The left side shows the approach into the proposal, while the right side shows the approach into the remainder. There's also some additional approaches to the remainder from the township road to the south, and access and sight lines are of no concern. This slide reviews some of the applicable policies from the municipal development plan. As the proposal seeking to create the first subdivision from the quarter, it was evaluated under the agricultural land use policies. The subject lands are within a policy area that can consider a maximum of 2 titles for a quarter section. The proposal is contemplating the creation of a second title and meets the requirements for subdivision density. The application seeking redesignation to residential farmstead district, which is the appropriate land use designation for its intended use. The proposal is located along the periphery of the quarter, and the lands that have been used for agricultural operations are to remain with the surrounding quarter. The farmstead has been in existence for more than 10 years and is approximately 7.57 acres, below the preferred maximum parcel size of 9 acres. It is relatively compact and surrounds the residential portion of the farmstead development, along with its access and shelter belts, while excluding farmland and pasture land. Access to the proposal and the remainder have both been established. Administration can support a resolution of approval for this proposal. The proposal is within the parameters described in the municipal development plan and land use bylaw. There were no letters of objection or concern that were received from adjacent landowners or referral agencies. That concludes my presentation, and the applicants are available if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the applicant have any new or additional information they'd like to provide? Okay, thank you. The applicant waives. Is there anyone in the gallery who would like to speak either in favor or in opposition to this application? Is there anyone online who would like to either speak in favor or in opposition to this application? Okay, I'm being told by administration there is no one online who wants to speak to this application. And so with that, I will open the floor for council to ask questions to either the applicant or planning. Councillor Johnson.
Just for clarity, even though this is first title out, I see that the quarter is 145.99 acres. So I'm assuming that's because of Range Road 11. Is that correct?
Through the chair, yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions? No? Seeing none then, I will ask if, oh, sorry, Councillor Lutz. No, we still have to get through the public hearing. I'll ask if administration has any closing comments.
No, I do not. Thank you.
Thank you. And does the applicant have any closing comments? Thank you. The applicant waives. So with that, I will close the public hearing and I will look for a motion, please. Councillor Lutz.
I move that council gives second reading to bylaw number LU 1925, redesignating the lands within Southeast 263215 Plan number 9512713, Lot 1.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I will call to question. All in favor? And that motion is carried. And Councillor Lutz.
I further move that council give third reading to bylaw number LU 1925, redesignating the lands within Southeast 263215, plan number 9512713, Lot 1.
Thank you. Any discussion? I'll call to question. All in favor? And that motion is carried. All right, we will move on to agenda item 4.2. This is bylaw number LU 2025, being a bylaw of Mountain View County in the province of Alberta to amend land use bylaw number 1024 affecting the Southeast 2433-1 west of the 5th pursuant to the Municipal Government Act. This received first reading on May 21st, 2025. With that, I will open the public hearing and turn it over to planning, please.
Thank you. The beginning of this presentation starts on page 58 of the agenda. The applicant is Les Dodd and the landowner is Beatrice Dodd. The application is proposing to redesignate an approximate 2.45 acres from Agricultural District A to Country Residential 1 District. This next slide is the location map. The subject lands are in the rural neighborhood of Natook, approximately 6 kilometers northeast from the town of Olds. This next slide is the figure 3 map from the MDP and shows that the proposal is within the agricultural preservation area. Page 61 of the agenda is the redesignation site sketch. The application is seeking to redesignate an approximate 2.45 acres of bare land to Country Residential 1 District along the quarter's east boundary. The subsequent subdivision application is seeking to create the second title for the quarter. The sketch shows that the lands can be accessed from Range Road 10, as this road was identified as being less than 7 meters wide. The county's Operational Services Department completed a non-conforming road inspection, which confirmed that the proposal should have a minimal impact on the road. The next slide is a surrounding land use map and shows that the subject quarter is surrounded mostly by agricultural zone land and 9 residential sites. The quarters to the southwest and northwest each contain residential lots. The lands to the east and southeast are within gore strips and have either been consolidated or reconfigured with the parcels further to the north and south. The remaining 5 quarters to the north, south, and west have between 1 and 2 titles. The next slide shows the oil and gas facilities map. The subject quarter does contain 1 natural gas pipeline, 1 fuel gas pipeline, and 1 sour natural gas pipeline, all of which are operating. The closest facility to the proposal is an operating natural gas pipeline, which is well removed, being over 150 meters to the west of the proposal. During the circulation process, the necessary oil and gas facility operators were notified about the proposal and no comments of condition or concerns were received. The next slide shows the topography and water map for the area. According to AgriSid, the landform is considered undulating high relief. You can see that Lone Pine Creek flows from the subject quarter's northwest to southeast corners. A close-up view of the subject quarter shows that it does appear relatively flat, with much of the area appearing to naturally drain towards the southeast or towards the creek. You may also see that there is a dugout within the quarter southeast corner. This was originally a burrow pit that was excavated for materials to construct Range Road 291, which terminates near the quarter's southeast corner. The next slide shows the environmental scan map. You can see that no environmentally significant areas have been identified within or surrounding the subject quarter. A close-up view of the quarter shows data from Alberta Merged Wetland Inventory, which identifies that portions of Lone Pine Creek may be surrounded by wetland areas. The next slide looks at some of the historical aerial images of the subject quarter going back to 2008. The images do show that the area southwest of the proposal is a wetland with water levels that vary from year to year. This slide reviews soil information. According to Kenneland Inventory, the quarter contains Class 1 soils. AgriSid shows that most of the soils have only moderate limitations, with some areas that do experience additional limitations due to drainage, The farmland field sheet shows that the soils with the greatest limitations surround Lone Pine Creek and the wetland areas, while the remaining soils are considered very good to excellent arable. The next slide shows the site dimension sketch showing the proposed parcel along the quarter's east periphery adjacent to the county road. Starting on page 71 of the agenda are photos that were taken during the site visit and show the approximate location of the proposal's boundaries. Image A shows the approximate location of the proposal's southwest corner, while photo B shows the northwest corner. You can see how this area appears to gently slope to the southwest. The images on this slide were taken near the proposal's east boundary. Photo A was taken from the southeast corner, while photo B was taken near the northeast corner. You can see that the proposal does appear relatively flat, but does have a gentle slope to the southwest towards the wetland within the proposed remainder. The images on this slide look at the area southwest of the proposal. Photo A shows the seasonal wetland, while photo B shows the proposal southwest corner in relation to the wetland. There appears to be sufficient space between the proposal and the wetland for farm equipment to easily navigate around the water body. This slide shows access and sight lines, which appear to be of no concern. The left side shows the potential location for an approach into the proposal, while the left side shows a location north of the proposal that can be used to access the remainder. As these areas adjacent to the road are relatively level with the road, there have been no issues accessing the site. However, subject to approval, one condition of subdivision will be to ensure that the accesses into the proposal and remainder both meet the county's current access management policy. Also, the landowner will need to enter into a road widening agreement along the range road to allow for future road widening. This slide looks at the quarter's southeast and northeast corners, which illustrate potential challenges for locating the proposal within these areas of the quarter. Image A shows the northeast corner of the quarter where there is a draw. This site may be difficult to develop due to drainage and topography. Image B shows the quarter's southeast corner, which contains a dugout and is also adjacent to where the county road terminates. There was a previous application for redesignation and subdivision for a residential parcel that was refused in 2021, and this slide summarizes some of the key information from that application. The proposal was seeking to create a 3.01 acre residential parcel in the quarter's southeast corner that also included the dugout. Administration did not support this proposal as the dugout appeared to be more compatible with the agricultural uses of the quarter. Although the applicant did provide some justification about why the proposal should be approved, it was thought if the proposal was relocated, the dugout could continue to be used for agricultural purposes and the proposed parcel could be made more compact, thereby reducing potential impacts on agricultural operations. Council did not approve the redesignation and MPC refused the subdivision. The subdivision application was appealed to the Land and Property Rights Tribunal, who also denied the appeal. The agricultural land use policies of the MDP were used to evaluate this proposal as it's seeking to create the first parcel out from the quarter. The subject lands are within a policy area that can consider a maximum of 2 titles per quarter, and the proposal seeking to create the second title for the quarter, which complies with the subdivision density. The application proposes the creation of a new bare parcel that will support future development of a residential site and is seeking redesignation to the appropriate land use designation for its intended use. Policy 3.3.9 aims to minimize impacts to existing agricultural operations, which the proposal is able to comply with. The proposal is located along the periphery of the quarter and is configured to ensure that farm equipment can easily navigate around the wetland area. Also, as previously noted, due to the dugout in the quarter's southeast corner and the landscape in the quarter's northeast corner, limited the options for locating the proposal in these areas. The proposal meets the parcel size requirements for new residential parcels, being between 2 and 3 acres, and the proposal will also have direct access to a county road. Administration can support a resolution of approval for this proposal. The proposal is within the parameters described in the Municipal Development Plan and Land Use Bylaw. The applicants provided additional information about the suitability of the proposal's location. During the circulation process, there were no letters of concern that were outlined from referral agencies, and there was also one letter of support from a neighboring landowner shown on page 58 of the agenda. The proposal complies with the policies of the statutory plan and the regulations of the land use bylaw. That concludes my presentation, and I don't believe that the applicant is available online. If you do have any questions, thank you.
Okay, so, sorry, Rand, did you say the applicant is available online or is not available online?
Is not available.
Okay, thank you. So we don't have the applicant available. So I will just ask if there is anyone either in the gallery or online who would like to speak in favor or in opposition to this application. So we do not have anyone online and we do not have anyone in the gallery. So with that, I will open the floor for council to ask questions. Councillor Fulton.
So is the parcel as shown on in the presentation, is that what the applicant applied for?
Yes, that's correct.
Was there?
Yes, Councillor Fulton.
Was there any discussion about moving it a little bit to the south so it was more in line with that wetland? Or it was just moved forward as it was presented?
Through the chair, the applicant was asked how that location would be the best for limiting impacts on agriculture, and this was what they put forward.
Okay, is there any other questions? No? Seeing no questions from council, I will ask if administration has any closing comments.
I do not, thank you.
The applicant is not in the gallery or online, and so they have no closing comments. And so with that, I will close the public hearing and I will look for a motion. Councillor Harris.
I'll move the council give second reading to bylaw LU 20/25, redesignating the lands within the southeast of 24, 33, 1 west of the 5th.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Councillor Fulton.
Yeah, so just from the presentation there, the previous application that included the dugout, and I understand why that was refused at that time, but I don't see why they didn't just move up and around the dugout to provide the acreage, where they've moved this parcel up to the center of the field and it's offset from that wetland area. I believe that needs to be cited slightly different if it's going to be in that area, because it was stated that there was room for farm equipment, but I'm not sure what size of farm equipment they're talking about. If you're moving a 120-foot sprayer around through there, I just don't think I don't think that's the best site possible. I understand why they don't want to go to the north, because there's an adjoining acreage there already. But I believe that south corner, like the dugout, isn't being used currently in this operation because it's field crops. It would be good to have the acreage move around that, just a little bit north of that dugout, and keep the dugout in the balance, but have that acreage down there. That's kind of a corner that isn't as well used. So I'm not going to support this one.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other discussion? No? So I'm going to support this one. I think it does align with policy, and we have had the discussions before about landowners knowing what the best option for their operations are. And it does align with policy. As much as sometimes it pains us to see these beautiful quarter sections that are class 1 soils being subdivided, it is landowner rights, and I'm going to support this. So if there's no further discussion, Councillor Johnson.
I concur. As much as I'm reluctant to subdivide class 1 soil from agriculture, this second title is right on the periphery. There were other options considered previous to this application. Certainly this landowner has worked hard in order to try and identify the best location, and I will support it as well.
Okay, so with that, we have a motion on the floor for second reading, and so I will call to question. All in favor? And opposed? And that motion's carried. Councillor Harris.
I'll further move that council give third reading to bylaw LU 20/25, redesignating the lands within the southeast of 2433-1 west of the 5th.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion? I'll call to question. All in favor? And opposed? And that motion's carried. Okay, so we will move on to 6.1. Counselor Lutz.
I move that council give first reading to bylaw number LU 2625, redesignating the lands within Northeast 83315.
Thank you. Any discussion? Call to question. All in favor? And that motion's carried. Counselor Lutz.
I further move that council set the public hearing for bylaw number LU 2625, redesignating the lands within Northeast 833-1-5 for August 13th, 2025 at or after 9 a.m.
Thank you. Any discussion? Call to question. All in favor? And that motion is carried. And 6.2, Counselor Fulton.
I'll move the council give first reading to bylaw LU 27/25, redesignating lands within Northwest 332 west of the 5th.
Thank you. Any discussion? Call to question. All in favor? And that motion's carried. Counselor Fulton.
I'll further move that council set the public hearing for bylaw LU 27/25, redesignating the lands within the Northwest 332 west of the 5th for August 13th, 2025 at or after 9 a.m.
Thank you. Any discussion? Call to question. All in favor? And that motion is carried. And we have item 6.3. Counselor Johnson.
I would move that council give first reading to bylaw number LU 28/25, redesignating the lands within the Southwest 433-4 west of the 5th, Plan 1541GY, Block 1, Lot 4.
Thank you. Any discussion? I will call to question. All in favor? And that motion's carried. Counselor Johnson.
I would also move that council set the public hearing.
Oh, sorry, your mic is off.
Sorry.
Counselor Johnson.
I would move that council set the public hearing for bylaw number LU 28/25, redesignating the lands within the Southwest 433-4 west of the 5th, Plan 1541GY, Lot 1, Lot 4 for August 13th, 2025 at or after 9 a.m.
Thank you. Any discussion? I'll call to question. All in favor? And that motion is carried. And we're on to 6.4, bylaw number 1125, appointment of a head and establishing fees for ATIA. Christopher, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. The province of Alberta has recently adopted Bill 33 and 34, which has taken the longstanding Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act and has split it out into two separate acts, which are now the Protection of Privacy Act, as well as the Access to Information Act. The Access to Information Act continues the requirement that is currently contained within the FOIP Act for the head of a public body to designate one person to administer the acts, as well as to designate the fee structure for administering the act. As such, administration is recommending changes to the existing bylaw that Mountain View County has, which is bylaw 0408, which is our FOIP bylaw, and has recommended changes to transition that over into the appointment of a head and establishment of fees for the Access to Information Act bylaw. So we have provided a track change version on pages 116 and 117 and a clean version on 118 through 120, which highlights the changes. Realistically, there are no material changes to the bylaw, just changes to section references, as well as changes to references between the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act and the new Access to Information Act. So I can certainly walk you through those changes if you like, Your Worship, but like I said, there's nothing material being proposed today to the bylaw.
Okay, so I'll look for a motion for first reading and then we can start to debate the bylaw. Counselor Miller.
I'd move that council grant first reading to bylaw 11/25, appointment of a head and establishing fees for ATIA.
Thank you. Is there any questions for Christopher? Counselor Johnson.
I'm just trying to understand, Christopher, where it says establishment of fees. So is it that once the individual who is the head, is it they that establish the fees? I'm just trying to understand that because I don't see any fees associated with this change in the bylaw.
So the fees are actually established by the regulation and are contained in our fee schedule bylaw as well. That change is only required if the municipality wants to charge a different lesser fee structure than what the regulation allows.
Councillor Johnson.
So are the fees different, given that the law has changed from it being a FOIP Act to now being this?
The fee structure has stayed the same. So essentially how it works is previously under the FOIP Act, there used to be a FOIP regulation as well that's contained within it. The minister sets the rates that the municipality or any public body is allowed to charge. And then under that regulation, it says that a municipality may charge lesser fees than that regulation, but not fees in excess of that regulation. So our bylaw just references that we will charge the regulation fees. And if the regulation changes, then we will charge whatever those fees may be established by the minister.
Thank you.
Hey, is there any other questions for Christopher? No? Then I will call to question on first reading. All in favor? And that motion is carried. And would someone like to put second reading on the floor? Councillor Miller.
I'd move the council grant second reading of bylaw 11/25, appointment of a head and establishing fees for ATIA.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Councillor Johnson.
Just as far as administering this new bylaw, compared to how it was previously, is this going to be similar, or is it going to take additional work? And could you summarize what it's going to mean for the public?
So this specific bylaw, no, not at all. There's no additional work caused by the additional bylaw. All it is just changing the reference from the FOIP Act to the ASIA Act now. For who's going to be the head. As far as the actual act changes, materially not large differences for the public or for administration. There have been some changes to different exceptions that have been added to the ASIA Act in addition to what was previously under the FOIP Act. So there may be different types of information that may have been released under FOIP, but that they won't be released under ASIA or vice versa. So just some changes between the actual acts. But the process for asking for information, the process timelines for administration to actually provide the information, process for appeal to the Office of the Privacy Commissioner, none of that has changed between the acts. Just like I said, probably the primary change I've seen is that, number one, they've split the act into two, so there's some duplication between the two acts, and that there have been some additional exceptions for disclosure that have been added to the ASIA Act that weren't previously contained within the FOIP Act.
Okay, so we have second reading on the floor. I will, if there's no further discussion, I will call to question on second reading. All in favor? And that motion is carried. And Christopher, is there any urgency to looking at third reading, or is this okay to come back?
Not necessarily. We can bring it back to the July meeting and we'll be fine with that.
Okay.
Just a question before we go forward. Would it be valuable to our ratepayers to ask for a short communication on what the differences are now that the legislation has changed? There was a suggestion that there was some information previously that would be available under FOIP that won't be available given the new legislation. I think it would perhaps interest our ratepayers to know what the changes are.
Christopher?
Yeah, and I guess to clarify my comments, not necessarily information that won't be available to the public members anymore, just provides more guidance to the FOIP head / now ASIA head in their determinations as to what information can be publicly released. So in some cases, that actually provides more personal protection for residents than what they had previously, which I think was the intention of the act. And I would just highlight that the ministry has provided some fact sheets already on FOIP versus ASIA, FOIP versus Protection of Privacy Act that are publicly available right now that do demonstrate those changes if people were interested.
Thank you.
All right. And so with that, we will move right into 8.1. This is policy 1008, reserve Water Valley logging revenue. Christopher, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. This item came forward to council on June 11th to discuss two different components. Number one, the reserves policy, and then the second component was the Water Valley logging revenue, both working together with a request from council to provide some direction on what you wanted to do with the Water Valley logging revenue. At that meeting, council requested that we go back to the policy and make some further amendments to combine the environmental reserve as well as the parks reserve into a new county-owned lands reserve. So if council recalls, at the June 11th meeting, we were only proposing some changes to the parks reserve, and it was highlighted that there may be some greater efficiencies by combining the environmental reserve as well into this policy. So those track changes have been made. You can see those track changes materially beginning on page 128 of your agenda package. This is the track change version of the existing park facilities reserve that has been combined now to be now coined the county-owned lands reserve. And you'll see that we've provided in the blue track changes, those are additional track changes. Maybe Laura, if you wouldn't mind going to page 128 of the package. You'll see the blue track changes are the track changes that we have added following the June 11th meeting to include the environmental reserve within this, and also highlighting the verbiage within the existing environmental reserve that these monies could also be used on operating projects or projects that aim to educate residents on matters relating to the environment, which was highlighted by council as well. So the other changes to the policy that are being proposed are just deletions from the environmental reserve, which is contained on page 129 of your agenda package. So with that, Your Worship, we were just looking for council's direction on number one, if the policy is satisfactory to council and if you are satisfied with the amendments. And then the subsequent motions are some reserve transfer motions to move existing monies from the existing reserves as well as from the Water Valley logging project into that new county-owned lands reserve.
Thank you. So let's start with the policy. And so we'll go to page 128. And I'll ask if there's any questions from council on the proposed policy. Councillor Johnson.
I see that not all the wording got transferred from page 129 over to the new 128. And so I would propose that we take the purpose reading, the entire purpose from page 129, where it says the general aim is to protect, improve, and educate the public in matters relating to the environment. And that didn't all get transferred to page 128, where it talks only about the aim is to educate residents on matters related to the environment. So my request, and perhaps I need it in a motion, would be that all that wording gets transferred.
Yes, Councillor Johnson. So if you would like to make a motion, then we can put that on the screen and we can have the discussion.
Thank you. So I would move that the project aim to protect, improve, or educate the environment be moved to the new motion on page 128.
Okay, so that's page 129. That's the last sentence under purpose that you're suggesting move to the new county-owned lands reserve policy.
That's correct.
At the end of the purpose.
Yeah.
Okay, so Laura, maybe you can just take it right from, I don't know if you can. The general aim is to protect, improve, and educate the public in matters relating to the environment. We move to the purpose of the proposed county-owned policy. Yeah.
Wouldn't it be, it would have to go into the background on 128.
So
Yep, that's correct.
Is it going into the back? Is your suggestion into the background, Councillor Johnson, or into the purpose? on page of the county-owned lands reserve. Where would you like to put that in your motion?
I'm just considering, thank you, certainly, the way it's written now, it is, that sentence in its edited form is included in the background. Because it comes from the purpose, I just need a minute to consider if it will fit there. I think it does fit better into the background.
Okay, so you want to put that in the background?
Yes, because the lion's share of that sentence is already in the background in the new one. And if that's where it fits best, I'm happy to leave it there, but I would like it to reflect all the intent from the previous one.
Okay, so let me just, let me get the motion straight first. So Councillor Johnson, does this reflect your motion?
Sorry, I'm going back and forth. Yes, I believe that's correct.
Okay, so the motion reads that council amend policy 1008 to read this reserve may be used for capital projects or operating projects on these lands, including projects that aim to protect, improve, and educate residents on matters related to the environment.
And that statement goes in the background as it is currently on page 128.
Okay, so in the motion then the council amend the background to policy. Just make sure we put that if that's where you want it. Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so the motion reads that council amend the background to policy 1008 to read this reserve may be used for capital projects and operating projects on these lands, including projects that aim to protect, improve, and educate residents on matters related to the environment. Okay. Any discussion? I'm just looking to, it doesn't seem like it's much different, but okay. Okay, so is there any discussion on this motion? No? Then I will call to question. All in favor? And that motion's carried. Okay, is there any other amendments to the policy or anything that council would like clarification on? No, then let's deal with the policy first. So we have a motion on page 120. Councillor Fulton.
I would move that council amend policy 1008 reserves as presented.
As amended?
As amended.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? No. Okay, I will call to question. All in favor? And that motion is carried. And then we have a couple of subsequent motions in order to transfer the funds over. Councillor Fulton?
I'll move that council transfer $57,907 from the closed park facility reserve into the county-owned lands reserve.
Thank you. Any discussion? Call to question. All in favor? And that motion's carried. And Councillor Fulton?
I'll move that council transfer $190,285 $1,000 from the closed environmental reserve into the county-owned land reserve.
Thank you. Any further discussion? I'll call to question. All in favor? And that motion's carried. And Christopher, just on this motion, in our previous council agendas, we actually had a figure for the funds to be transferred, and I see it's not in this one.
As
No,
far as
it was
the
not.
logging project number?
Okay,
Yeah, so we had, Jen and I had discussed it and wanted to leave it just open. We do attribute all those costs under a specific work order, so it's easy for us to track what dollars, but we were just concerned that we got a motion from council and then one last payment of $200 rolls through, and now we've got to come back and ask for another motion.
yeah,
So
no, that's fine. Thank you. Thank you for the clarification. Councillor Fulton.
I'll move that council allocate the revenues received from the 2024-2025 Water Valley Logging Project under work order 10-200 to the county-owned lands reserve.
Thank you. Any further discussion? I'll call to question. All in favor? And that motion's carried. Councillor Harris.
Just a question, given that we're going to have other requests coming forward for logging lands, would it be convenient to have a motion now to suggest that future logging revenues be allocated to this reserve just to save it, keep coming back?
Jen.
We could establish that as a standard and bring it forward each year at the end of the year with the rest of the reserve movements, the same way we do for things like equipment gain loss money. But each year we would require a motion in order to make the addition to the reserves. So
Okay.
we could set it as the standard, but it would still come back in some way or another.
Okay.
Thank you for that. Okay, we will move on to 9.1, policy 4031, road closures. Christopher, please.
thank you, Worship. We're on page 156 of the agenda package now. So this is a new policy and procedure that administration is recommending that council consider. Right now, administration does deal with a variety of different road closures, which are undeveloped road allowances as well. And those range from everything from road projects to planning and development requests that come through planning and development processes to just items that we look at for operational efficiencies. And so right now we don't have any guidance from council as to what that process should look like. They are all handled a little bit differently internally right now. And so we just wanted to have some discussion here at the table to make sure that council is satisfied with how we are handling each of these road closures, or if council would like to propose a different process for doing so. So probably the easiest way, Your Worship, is if I just go through the policy and procedure, if that's satisfactory to you.
Yes.
So the draft policy is on page 157. We do have a requirement to comply with the Municipal Government Act for road closures. There is a section 22 of the Municipal Government Act that regulates how we deal with road closures, whether they have to be done through a bylaw or whether they can be done with ministerial approval, depending on the nature of the road closure, which I'll highlight in a little bit here. There is a overarching principle that we're only going to do so when it's in the municipal interest, or if those roads are no longer needed for effective transportation of current or future traffic. And the third principle being there, just that we are outlining those standards on how the various road closures are going to be dealt with and how they are going to be initiated. Going down into the procedure, so under the definition section, this is really a large difference in how road closures have to be handled under the Municipal Government Act. So there's a forced road allowance, and these are road allowances that we also coin as statutory road allowances that have historically been designated by the Dominion Land Survey. So those are your typical grid roads, whereas your surveyed road plan are those that have been surveyed out with a plan of survey. So those are ones that we typically see coming forward where, you know, they're maybe an abnormal shape, abnormal location, those types of things. So the first road closure that we wanted to highlight for council is under section 2, and these are road closures that are initiated due to Mountain View County road projects. This is the ones that are handled by Ryan's crew. And so what we're highlighting within this section is that typically it'll be the county that will initiate this process because we are the ones that want to do the road closure due to the road construction project. It's usually determined by Ryan or his staff as to which roads are needing to be closed to be able to do so. And because it's a Mountain View County initiated project, we are recommending that the benefiting landowner is not responsible for those land acquisition costs or for an application charge, because again, it's to Mountain View County's benefit that we're trying to close that road. So maybe I'll pause after each one, Your Worship, and just see if there's any questions on that specific type of road closure, and then we can deal with any, larger philosophical questions afterwards.
Okay, is there any questions on section 2? No, carry on, Christopher.
So section number 3, these are the ones that come forward due to planning and development applications. Jess and her team might highlight that a road closure is required in order to accomplish a subdivision or a development application. Because these are initiated through an application process through planning and development, the road closure would also be initiated by the applicant for the planning and development application to come forward and ask for it. And there are costs associated with doing so, and those costs are associated with doing any survey costs, any expenses for legal, or any expenses for land title registrations. Right now, within our fee schedule bylaw, we have 2 different fee structures. So one of them is for $5,000, which is the larger process. That's having to go through the entire road closure process through bylaw. And then the other one is for $1,000, and that's the more simpler process if there's not all of those different processes associated with them. We have also highlighted in 3.3 is that if the applicant is looking to acquire more than 1 acre of land due to the road closure, that cost of land would also be paid by the applicant in accordance with those rates that are established by council through other policy in 4017. So that's the policy that council looks at, setting the land rates every single year, and that helps us. The other option would be getting an appraisal done of every single portion of land, and administration thinks that that's cost prohibitive when most of the times we're looking at smaller chunks of land, and that we have established market rate through policy 4017. So that is the planning and development process. Section 4 highlights for forced road allowances. So again, these are your typical grid line roads. We deal with them in accordance with section 22(1) of the MGA, and that is the section that requires for a bylaw process to be done and for it to be sent off. In these cases, again, we do have our fee schedule bylaw where we highlight that the applicant will be responsible for those costs. Those costs, again, are for administration fees, survey costs, any land title costs. And then we have highlighted in 4.3 the same that I previously spoke about around the land acquisition price, is that if it is more than that 1 acre, then we would be looking for the applicant to pay those rates that are established in policy 4017. And then section number 5, that's the surveyed road plans that I spoke about earlier. If they've historically been subdivided out from a parcel, they're dealt with in accordance with 22(4) of the MGA. And again, this is a little bit more of a simpler process. There is the fee schedule bylaw that has administration fees and land title transfers. Usually, we don't need to do any other surveying of these plans because they're already surveyed out. So we were just closing an actual road plan. And so again, just carrying forward the same commentary in 5.3, if it's more than an acre of land, they're responsible for those costs as well. Section 6 is just some general comments about all road closures. So 6.1 is if administration is determined that the land proposed to be acquired by the applicant should be valued less than fair market value. So these are maybe road closures where nobody else has access. Maybe the land is not suitable for a road, and that it would be established less than what fair market has been established in policy 4017. Then we can go through the public advertising process, which is contained in the MGA. So just as a reminder to council, in order to sell land, we either have to advertise that publicly, and then you can accept any monetary value that you get through that public process, or you have to sell it for fair market value. And if you sell it for fair market value, then you don't have to advertise that piece of land. So that's what 6.1 is just confirming. 6.2 is, again, just a catch-all here that there may be times where an administration says, the road closure is just desired due to operational efficiencies. Maybe there's a undeveloped road allowance that, we have to continually lease out to the same person year after year because there's nobody else that wants that land. That administration has some flexibility to be able to waive some of those costs if it's going to save us money administratively to not have to continue to deal with this one on a continual basis. 6.3 is just saying that any applicant initiated road closure requests have to be made in writing, and those are taken to the CAO. And then once the CAO gets that in 6.4, they're responsible for determining the appropriate process to bring forward and which section of the MGA is required to be complied with in that specific instance. So that is I guess, a quick little overview of what administration is proposing. We think that it's advisable to put in some type of policy or procedure. We do see a lot of road closure requests, and I think it's important to have the consistency for the public on which way their road closure is going to be handled, depending on what that specific request is. So that's what administration is bringing for the policy, and certainly happy to answer any questions or make any amendments that council sees.
Thank you. Council, any questions? No? So Christopher, can you please just, and I'm sorry, I'm trying to understand the wording on 6.1. So if the land that's proposed to be acquired by the applicant is valued at less than fair market value established by council policy, wouldn't we just charge the fair market value in the council policy? Or are you saying that it would depend on where the land is? Or I just don't understand that clause very well.
Yeah, so the vast majority of closures will probably just be fair market value as established by 4017. But there may be instances, and there have been instances, when we've looked at road closures and said, like, this piece of land is absolutely useless. Nobody else needs it. Nobody else could use it. If we were to advertise it, it would be worth $0 because nobody else is going to want this parcel except for this specific landowner. So in those kinds of instances, we would advertise, hey, we're looking to sell this property for maybe it's half, maybe it's, that would have to be a negotiation as to what the actual value is. And so the MGA allows for us to then publicly advertise that Mountain View County is looking to sell this portion of this road closure, of this road allowance, for X amount of dollars, and allows for people to submit comments at that point in time. So that's just the process established in the MGA. Realistically, the policy 4017 guidelines will apply to most of our road closure allowances or our road allowances. But there will be instances certainly where the lands just aren't worth that value that has been established by council.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the clarity. So is there any further questions for Christopher on either the policy or the procedure? Councillor Nixon.
I do have just one question for clarification. If, for example, we would like to have a road allowance that goes through somebody's property for whatever reason, whether it's utilities or otherwise, do we always pay them for that?
If we're acquiring land for a road allowance?
Yeah.
So if we were to acquire land for a road allowance, yes, but there may be other allowances that come through as part of the planning and development process where the applicant has to provide that as part of their application process. So kind of depends on the nature, but if Ryan's crew decided, hey, we want to build a road right here and we don't own that land, then yes, we do have the process through the land acquisition for road projects policy that's where that value is established.
So I'm just wondering about the fees that we're charging somebody. So let's say, for example, we decided we wanted to have a road allowance through somebody's land or on the edge of somebody's land as part of planning and development. And then all of a sudden we decide we don't need that really anymore. We didn't pay them originally for it, but we're asking them to buy it back from us. So I just wanted to make sure that we're not asking them to pay for something that we didn't buy.
So my understanding, council, is that if, as part of a planning development application, there'll be an agreement that we can take it. And if we execute it, we do have to pay them as per 4017. But there are circumstances where, there's an agreement on title to acquire land for road widening as part of a subdivision that we may never execute. And so if we never take it, then there's no obligation for the landowner to apply for a closure or it doesn't change their title at all. So there may be circumstances where a road was taken historically 50 plus years ago, and we may not have good records to show how it was acquired. But we would assume that the landowner was compensated for it in some manner back in the day when it was taken. And so the concept with this proposal and this policy is that we're relying on the fees identified in policy 4017. So we would expect landowners, if they're buying back county road allowance, to buy it at the current market value that council sets for us acquiring road allowance on private land. And 4017 is annually reviewed, so it stays current with market values as those change.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any other questions? Councillor Harris?
I'm just looking at 4, all of section 4. And I'm not so sure. My understanding is that because it's Crown land and we manage it, it can actually never be sold. So are we actually talking about when we close a road, now we're renting it or leasing it to them? But isn't it correct that the title for that land never changes hands?
So what you're saying is partially correct. The MGA gives the Mountain View County or all the municipalities the allowances to be able to close those roads for the purpose of disposal. That's the purpose of this section of the MGA, is to explain how this process can be done, and especially when it comes to, as Christopher said, for the forest road allowances. That's why that decision is made by the minister in Edmonton, is to ensure that that process is being completed properly to get rid of that government land.
Okay, it's just the clarity that we're actually transferring ownership of that land ultimately will be from the Crown, managed by us to a private citizen or whoever, rather than just renting it to them.
The other one is, as we were describing earlier, there are the diversions, the survey plans that go around. So like Jeff said, those purchases, those landowners back in the day would have been compensated for that land. So you're equaling out the equation, right? The statutory road allowance, the forest one, the 66 that the government set out before people were in Alberta, it's just a different equation altogether on that.
Yeah, no, I get the road plan ones, had lots of experience with that. I just wanted clarity on whether we're actually transferring ownership. I didn't think you could transfer ownership of Crown land.
Yes, we're transferring ownership. We're
Okay.
transferring ownership under the auspice that there is, like, say, on the 66, the one in Water Valley, for example, that goes around. We've informed the minister and displayed to him that there is a new road that serves the same purpose as the old road. Thus, the old road allowance is no longer required.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. There's no other questions for Christopher, then we do have a motion on page 156. Councillor Miller?
I would move the council approve policy 4031, road closures as presented, and accept policy 4031-01, road closures as information.
Thank you. And that was procedure 4031.
Sorry.
Yep, no, that's fine. Thank you. All right. So if there's no further discussion, we have a motion on the floor and I will call to question. All in favor? And that motion's carried. And thank you to administration to recognizing that there was a gap in the policies and for bringing that forward. Okay, so we're going to do the Mountain View Regional Film Office, the strategic organizational development plan before the break. Christopher.
Thank you, Your Worship. So we're down on page 160 of the agenda package. I'll give you a quick little introduction into what you're looking at here today, and then I'll turn over to Natalie to kind of walk you through the high-level summary. So in 2024, the partners of the Mountain View Regional Film Office, which are the Town of Disbury, Town of Sundre, and ourselves, hired Nordicity, which is a consultant from Ontario that specializes in the film industry, to put together a strategic organizational plan for us, essentially trying to provide some guidance to administration on what do we have and where are we going and what's realistic for us to accomplish in the short term and the long term. So they have done that, did a good job for us. We have provided that document for council's review in whole, and we have also put together a quick high-level summary that was presented to both the Town of Sundre Council, Town of Disbury Council, and now yourselves to highlight administratively where we see moving forward with the strategic document. The strategy is when you look at it in its entirety, is a little overwhelming to consider going from where we are today to where it's proposing we could potentially get to. And so administration decided to sit down, break it out into more tangible steps and proceed. So there's a couple of references here, step 1 and step 2 that you see in the RFD. You'll see in Natalie's report as well as in the Nordicity report. Step 1 I would highlight is, kind of taking what we have right now, our existing structure, and trying to build on that, but still staying within our current budgetary and administrative confines. And then step 2, as Nordicity has highlighted in their report, goes to that next level and is more of an advanced level, looking at growth and expansion. They have highlighted some contingencies in there that if we do decide to move to step 2, there are budgetary impacts as well as staffing impacts that would likely be required in order to accomplish that. So with that, maybe I'll turn it over to Natalie to walk you through the summary, and then we can certainly answer any questions on the summary or on the entire report if council has.
Hi. So just echoing what Christopher said, in January, the report was finalized and it came back and it noted that the Film Office is a viable organization and there's room for growth and capacity expansion. They talked about the strengths and weaknesses that our region kind of has to offer. We are within the rural tax credit, which is a tax credit for film just outside the Calgary area. So that is seen as a pro as well as a con, considering we're also outside union zone. So that gave us kind of a unique advantage. As Christopher was saying, there were two steps provided as moving forward. Step 1 was the fundamental, which is kind of as is government structure with the 3 founding partners. And that looked at streamlining and standardization, getting policies and procedures, record keeping, data collection, everything on the same page so we can come forward as a unified approach. And that was deemed as crucial so we can be perceived as one single entity. And step 2 was advanced, which saw the growth and expansion, which would bring on other players in the game, which could be, surrounding communities, surrounding counties. And at this time, we are recommending proceeding with step 1 and continuing to analyze when an expansion could or would be viable or realistic. So, yeah.
And I would just note, Your Worship, that it did go to Didsbury Council last night, and they approved with administration continuing to work with step 1. And it went to Sundry Council Monday or last week. And they also approved proceeding with the administration's recommendation to move forward with step 1. So like I said, there is a lot of information contained within this package, and we can certainly go through it more in depth if council wishes, or if you had any specific questions, we can just field them at this point in time.
Thank you. Is there any questions for Christopher or for Natalie? Councillor Johnson.
Thank you. You're right. It's a very detailed and useful report. I am curious about how the costs were calculated. On page 209, it looks at $5,820. I wondered how we got to that number. And that's for step 6, provincial relationship building, and whether or not that is calculated on a cost per capita basis, or whether or not the 3 municipalities were all looking at that same number. And so that was just a total that was required divided by the 3 current players.
Yeah, so I guess to answer a couple of the questions in there, number 1, all of the costs were brought forward by Nordicity. So administration has done no work to actually put together the cost estimates that you see within the package. So that would be based on their understanding of how the film industry works, much better than my understanding of how the film industry works. And all of the costs that are attributed here, it's my understanding that those are costs for the film office, not individual costs for each individual municipality. So when you look at a $6,000 cost, that would then be divided based on each municipality. And right now we have just been dealing with it on a 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 basis, not broken out on a per capita basis.
So that $5,820, it would be Montmagny County's cost, and that similar cost would have been borne by or proposed to Didsbury and to Sundry?
So the $5,800 cost would be the cost for the entire film office, and then broken down by a third. So it would be 2,000. You're testing my math here, Councillor. It'd be like $1,900 for that specific section per municipality per year.
Thank you. And in today's request for decision, does that imply just that again on page 164 that we are agreeing to the initial year cost? Or does that imply that we are going to do the ongoing costs after the initial year, which takes that same number and moves it forward on an annual basis?
Yeah, so the recommendation from today or for today is that we proceed with the fundamental step. So the fundamental step looks at essentially pillars 1 through 3. So pillar number 1 is standardizing and streamlining, which essentially is just administration working better together to make sure that our application packages are the same, any policies that we have on filming are the same, our processes are the same, trying to make it as easy as possible for the film industry to film within the film office confines. Number 2 is more just around tracking the films that come, trying to use that information better, trying to understand how our processes should be updated once we start seeing more of the filming. 3 is more around communicating with the public, getting our messaging out there. And then there is a little bit within number 6 as far as relationship building. Other than that, the other dollars that are in there for pillars 4, 5, and 7, which is when you start seeing the larger numbers, those aren't being considered under step 1. Those would only be considered under step 2. So administration believes that with our current economic development budget, maybe just some little tweaks here or there, we can handle the existing, with our existing budgets that first step. If council wants to proceed to the second step, then we would have to look at additional budget to be able to do so.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any other question? Councillor Lutz.
Did they talk much about, or I guess this study was probably before Trump has a mat on for film in Canada. Was that factored in at all on if we're going to see any decline in industry coming to our part of the world?
It hadn't been at the time. No, it wasn't contemplated at that time. But that's a good question, something that I can contemplate going forward.
Hey, so I just have a few questions. It says here we've got an existing governance structure. So my concerns rise from listening to the radio station and hearing that both Didsbury and Sundre have once again attended a film festival in Banff just recently. And I don't know if we knew about that or if we decided not to attend but I'm just, how does the current decision-making process work? How does the governance work? And because part of the report says that successful film offices have a board, they have more governance, they have a structure. What does our structure look like? And is that part of step 1 is figuring out what the governance model would look like?
So I guess to answer a couple of your questions, film festival, yes, we did know about. We declined participation until we had direction from council as to how we wanted the film office to proceed. We didn't want to spend any additional dollars until we had that direction. So we did certainly know they offered our participation. We respectfully declined. As far as the governance structure, right now I would define it as an administrative partnership that all of our economic development strategies are all working in the same direction, and we're just working together on how to accomplish those. Everybody with their own approving authorities, same as the budget. If somebody wants to do a special project and doesn't get the support of the other partners, then they're just not going to participate in that specific project. There is no set budget for the film office or any type of decision-making authorities that the film office has over our own municipal autonomy, which definitely has its benefits. But it is very informal and flexible, I would say, at this point in time. We did discuss that at length with the consultant. They have obviously provided within the report their recommendations on the governance structure. I think the feeling I got, Natalie can certainly jump in if she likes, is that they feel like our existing governance structure is satisfactory until we hit that step 2. And then at that point in time, something more formalized needs to be looked at. And that's likely when you're also looking at membership, bringing in other communities. Is there a paid model? All of the things that have been kicked around, since the formation of the film office would then have to be hacked out and move forward on. And so that's why we're trying to push that down the road, as well as saying, Right now, there's not an appetite to look at that from
Okay.
all of the partners. And until such time that there is an appetite, then the overall group has to understand what the confines are of the existing step one. And so from our administration's perspective, we're going to be, if council approves, we're going to be working diligently with the other municipalities on these first three pillars, but also at the same time, ensuring that the film office doesn't go outside of these three pillars into other pillars until we hit those key checkpoints of establishing the formal governance and having those discussions around membership.
Okay, so is there, is the idea that we would actually have a terms of reference, or we would have some sort of a structure for phase one where we would have an agreement with our partners, or this, you're happy to just continue to do this more with as much flexibility and no structure, not no structure, but limited structure?
Yeah, I guess personally, I do like the flexibility in being able to determine the projects that the film office are going to work on and how they comply with our existing economic development objectives. My fear is that if you establish a formal structure that has, you know, a voting membership, and now two of the three partners decide that they want to do one project, does that now tie down that third partner to following with that route? And I don't get the sense that either our other partners want to be in that scenario either. And I think if you get into that more formal structure, then you would have to provide the resources for that governance body to then be able to allocate at the same time, or have the requisition ability to tell each of the municipalities, hey, the board has decided we're doing X. Each municipality is required to come up with $4,500 or $10,000 or whatever the number is for us to be able to accomplish that. This existing structure gives us the flexibility from Mountain View County's administration to look at the project, say, hey, that's great, works in alignment with what we're trying to accomplish as well. We need $1,500 each. We have a budget already established by council. Let's spend that $1,500 and forward that project. Or conversely saying, hey, we don't think that, you know, doing this project at this point in time is in alignment with our strategy, so we're going to opt out of that one. And if everybody else wants to proceed, that's up to you to do so at your own peril. So the flexibility is nice. I understand there's negatives to not having the formal structure as well, but I think as long as we're staying within those first three pillars, the risk is probably fairly low.
Okay, thank you. Well, I thought it was a good report with lots of information in there on potential avenues that the film office could go into. So I thought it actually was a fairly good report. So thank you for that. Councillor Johnson.
Is there any future idea about proposing this also to the Chamber of Commerce? I guess in both in Didsbury and in Sundre, I guess when I consider the value to the chamber and the value to Mountain View County taxpayers, I'm wondering, certainly the suggestion in the report that, you know, an increasing tide raises all the boats. I understand that. But I'm just trying to understand maybe where this is going.
Yeah, I can't speak at length to how the Didsbury, town of Didsbury and Didsbury Chamber of Commerce relationship works on these types of things. I understand that there is, certainly some conversations that happen between them. I'm not sure if the Didsbury Chamber of Commerce, is an active participant in there, but I do know when, the town of Didsbury, for instance, looks at closing their main street for a large filming production, that the Chamber of Commerce has been involved in the past in helping communicate that and working as a resource with the business community. So right now, there's no contemplation of, like I said, with the governance structure, there is no contemplation that there would be a Chamber of Commerce seat at the table for decision-making at this point in time. But certainly being used as a resource, understanding that there is some value to the overall Chamber of Commerce due to the participation of the film industry in their communities.
Hey, Councillor Lutz.
Just, I like the direction that this is going, but thinking more, we want the business to come to the region. That's like the main goal, right? So if there is, if the perfect location does happen in Cremona, as Mountain View partner, can we, I don't know how it works if somebody ever just comes and talks to you. Do you have liberty to say, hey, there's a college in Olds or a water tower in Olds or something in Cremona? Or is that frowned upon because these other municipalities aren't participating partners?
That's a great question. And Absolutely not. Like, we are still promoting the things within our region. I know when they did go to Banff the other week, they had a lot of questions about Olds and surrounding areas, and we're still champions for those people as well. You know, we understand how the film industry works to a degree. And they know what they want, and if that is still within our county, like, absolutely, we would want that, so.
Okay. Thank you. Well, I know this, I mean, both the town of Didsbury and the town of Sundre are extremely passionate about this project. And so, you know, in hindsight, maybe it would have been more of a regional with everyone, but I think it's great that the county does support the initiative because there's a couple of our partners who are really, really passionate about this. So with that, we've got a couple of motions. Councillor Harris.
I'll move the council accept the Mountain View Regional Film Office Strategic Organizational Development Plan presentation as information.
Thank you. Any further discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor? And that motion's carried. And Councillor Nixon.
I would move that council requests for administration in partnership with the town of Didsbury and town of Sundre to proceed with step 1 fundamental of the Mountain View Regional Film Office Strategic Organizational Development Plan prepared by Nordicity and SKH Consulting.
Thank you. And Christopher, just is there an anticipated timeline on this? Are we giving ourselves 6 months, 12 months, or just leaving it open-ended for now?
I think at this point in time, administration recommends we leave it open. We'll start working on step 1, see the success that we can see in step 1, and then start to decide whether there is a logical change to start moving into step 2. But I think until there's sufficient support around all 3 tables around, you know, the budget and those additional resources, that step 2 is going to be difficult to accomplish until we have, you know, as a group decided that, okay, we're moving forward with that. So how long that takes, I have no idea. It could be years, might be, you know, by the end of next year, I'm not sure, but
Okay.
it really decides on the appetite from all the municipalities.
Okay. Well, some of the interesting things are going to be around the policy discussions, I think, between the municipalities. So look forward to that. All right. If there's no further discussion, I will call the question. All in favor of the motion? And that motion is carried. And with that, we'll take a break till 22:11.
Testing, testing.
Jeff?
Thank you, Reeve. I will ask Jen to cover this. This item is coming back as a result of some feedback from our auditors during the annual audit process. And they had identified a couple of procurement issues that they recommended we address. And so Jen has put together some information to address the auditor's concerns.
Thank you. Jen?
Good morning. Okay, starting on page 240, give me one second. 249, you can see the changes that we have added into the procurement of equipment, goods, and services, and the procurement for through cooperative purchasing programs. So if you recall, at the end of the year through our audit process, there was some questions and concerns about our use of RMA and Sourcewell pricing. We, at the time, felt that it met the requirements of the procedure, but they recommended some amendments here just to provide a little bit more breadth into the write-up to say that we rely on Canoe to provide some pre-tendered pricing to support our procurement. And there was a slight amendment there under 10.4 as well, where manufacturer specification and warranties need to be maintained. Purchases over $25,000 may be sole sourced. We've just added a little bit in there about exclusive dealer rights and manufacturer approved warranty facilities, just to ensure that we're covered across the board. Is there any questions?
Counselor Fulton?
Can you explain what exclusive dealer rights might actually mean? I understand what warranties and repair stuff contracts would be, but what is a dealer right?
Sure. So I'll give you an example actually that prompted this change. We have some oil distributors that support our rechipping program. They are Etnire, is that correct? There is an exclusive manufacturer's warranty dealer facility that is the only person who is authorized to work on these pieces of equipment. So we're not going out and requesting quotes from 3 different service providers to bring that in and get that equipment work done, because that is the only facility that is able to work on it. They're the only one that's able to get the parts. So it limits our ability to go out and follow the procedure as it's written. And so we just want to make sure that we're putting that prescriptive language in to say, where we don't have a choice, we will go with the manufacturer's direction.
Any other question? Jen?
Just on the 10.1 purchases up to 25,000, how do you track so it's not sole source, multiple times if the invoices are under 25,000?
So typically, you know, unless it's a new product, we can look back at previous purchases that we've made to get an estimate. We'll go out and we'll get a quote, or we'll ask our, you know, one of our preferred suppliers, what's it going to cost? If it's reaching that threshold, before you can proceed with that purchase, you need to go out and get those other 2 quotes and make sure that it's in line and that it meets the requirements of this procurement policy and of the New West trade agreement.
Okay. And so, Jen, just as curious, do we pass this through our auditors to see whether or not this is, you know, what they're looking for, or we don't need any input from the auditors on this?
We had a robust discussion at year end about the wording of the procedure, the spirit of the procedure, and what they felt was missing. And so with that, we've added this procurement piece down at the bottom.
Okay. Thank you. Is there any further questions for Jen on this? If not, we have a motion on page 245. Councillor Harris.
I'll move that council accept the amendments to procedure 1009-01 financial controls as information.
Thank you. Any further discussion? I'll call to question. All in favor? And that motion is carried. And thank you to Jen and Mike and his team for addressing this so quickly and getting it off the, it's always great when we see these issues and then we address them really quickly and make sure that we have the procedures and the policies in place to safeguard the municipality. So thank you for all your hard work on that. It's much appreciated. 9.4, proposed budget 2026 timeline. Jen, please.
Okay, so starting on page 261, you have the RFD with the proposed budget timeline. And down on page 263, you'll see the actual dates that we're proposing. I'm just gonna move this. Thank you. Okay, so we're looking to start the budget process with the economic and financial scan on September 10th. At the same time, we will look to bring forward the short-term borrowing bylaw. This is really council's opportunity to discuss and address any questions or concerns regarding service levels, any adjustments you'd like to see in the coming year, and to present any projects that you would like to see incorporated into the budget that maybe are outside of the long-range plan. Our intent is to present a preliminary interim budget to the outgoing council prior to the election. And at that time, we'll also bring back the short-term borrowing bylaw for second and third reading. There is a closed council workshop for November 4th. Now, these dates are tentative until all the council dates are set, but this is at the time what we're proposing. Through that council workshop, we'll work through the full project budget, the operating budget, any cost of living adjustments, long-term forecasts on the reserve balances, the county long-range infrastructure plan, and the early tax payment incentive. Following the workshop, there are 2 public presentations of the budget to council and looking to get approval there on December 10th prior to the end of the year. In the new year, we will bring back the reserve movements and the tax rate options. These are very much in alignment with what we saw for the prior budget cycle. And then looking to bring forward tax rate options for approval in April. Audited financial statements at the end of April, just to conform with the MGA deadlines, and always having that third tax rate option, third reading if required at the end of April as well. Is there any questions or concerns on the budget timelines?
Okay, Councillor Lutz.
Just wondering if the budget's going to the audit committee early, like we normally do that, and is that still something that's scheduled?
So we opted to leave it out at this time. Certainly, you could direct us to include it if you felt it was an important part of the presentation. And we always do include it because I think it's great to get that early feedback. But just given with the election and the timing, we weren't confident that there would be enough time to make meaningful changes to the budget following that meeting prior to bringing it forward to the presentation to the outgoing council.
I just personally really find it helpful to get our public members' perspective on what they. I think they just bring a different lens to it. So I really do appreciate that early engagement. It's one of the only public engagements we get on what we're doing with the budget.
So Jeff, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, Jen and I had discussed this, and when the first draft, we looked at October 1st as a date for the audit committee, but it just doesn't work with the council agenda because there's no opportunity to make any adjustments or changes. So it would be the exact same agenda package for council as it would be for the audit committee. So we removed it from the pre-election portion. Certainly if council identifies a time where, reinserting that review with the audit committee fits, we could certainly have a look at that. My recommendation would be it just may not be the most efficient use of time pre-election, but fitting it in post-election, if there's time, it gets very busy with orientation, RMA, AUMA, and all the things that are happening, and then obviously the timeline and deadlines to get a budget approved. So we didn't find a good spot for it to fit, is why it's not in there in this version of the schedule. So look to council for direction on amending it if needed.
Okay, so let's deal with this first. So if we were to put it back in, Jeff, we would put it in sometime in like the 1st of October, and then it would just be essentially a verbal report back from the audit chair because no changes would be included. Is that kind of what I'm getting?
Yeah, that's the way it would have functionally worked. And then I guess I looked at it as that just, it may create a disproportionate opportunity for some of council to participate in the review versus all of council, since there's no actual changes being made from between the audit committee and the council agenda. Because you have 3 councilors on audit committee, and then all of council will see it the next week. It also, timelines are compressed because of the election, and so it gives administration a little more time to create project sheets, have budget numbers pulled together. Having that extra week is beneficial on the administrative side for preparing things as well.
Okay. So given that, I'm just going to see whether or not anyone is interested in putting forward a motion to put that audit committee discussion back in. Councillor Fulton.
Just a comment, historically, audit committee, when I was on it, we were just reviewing project sheets ahead of time. We offered no changes to project sheets. Sometimes we asked for additional clarity on specific items within a project sheet, whether that included photographs or a better description of, but there was nothing, there was no changes like fundamentally proposed to any of the project sheets. So I feel just with the timeline and with the new council that foregoing it for this year probably makes sense, but I would support bringing it back post.
Okay. Councillor Lutz.
I think we just would have to communicate really clearly with the audit committee public members. I think if we took that away from them, they would be disappointed and maybe feel that their usefulness on the audit committee isn't needed anymore because they do bring some really good feedback. So I guess I would make a motion that we do try and schedule it in the first part of October to do a preliminary interim budget review with the audit committee.
Okay, so Laura, can you see if you can type that motion out, please? And just clarity, we have one public member on the audit committee, is that correct? I thought, Jen, you mentioned members as plural, but I think there's.
Yes, there's one audit committee member.
Okay.
So I think what we would do is, you said early October, Councillor Lutz, October 1st, just so there's a specific date in your motion. Might work. I think that's what Jen and I had initially started with. So that potentially could be something to consider for your motion, is putting that date in so we have some certainty.
If you want certainty, that's great.
Okay, so Councillor Lutz, does that reflect your motion?
Yes.
Okay, so the motion reads that council direct administration to add the audit committee review of the interim budget to October 1st, 2025. Discussion. Councillor Fulton.
So just for clarity, it's not the interim budget, correct? It is only the project sheets.
So we will prepare an interim budget for this outgoing council. It's a little bit earlier than we typically do, and we can present both at the audit committee as well.
But typically, historically, the audit committee has only looked
That's
at
correct.
project sheets.
Okay, any further discussion? Councillor Harris.
Well, my concern is that the public member who sees this may not be the public member who continues after the election, depending on when their term is up and all that kind of stuff. So I think it may become just a moot point to let that person have a look at something that they may not be involved with down the line.
Hey, Jeff, sorry, did you?
No, I can clarify the appointment runs through to the organizational meeting of 2026, but as Councillor Harris pointed out, it's at the discretion of the incoming council to make any changes they feel are appropriate to any of the council committees.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so I'm going to support administration on their rationale for not putting it in, just because there is a lot of stuff going to be going on in October. There is a huge amount of stuff going on in October, and I think it's going to put a lot more stress on trying to put in another meeting. And I think that for all council to see the budget, and we're just going to have to be diligent, and I'm confident that this council will put the time and the effort required into supporting the best information that we can and providing that to the next council that's going to come in. Because we all do know, we've all been on council the first term, and October, November is a very, it's a difficult time. And so the more information that we can pass on to the next council would be much appreciated. So is there any further discussions on this motion? No? Okay, so I will call to question. All in favor? And opposed? And that motion's lost. Okay, is there any other discussion on the timeline? Councillor Johnson.
When I look at Tuesday, November 4th for the closed meeting of council workshop, and given the conversation that's already been in regard to the election and the fact that we may have new folks at the table. I'm proposing that we have perhaps an additional optional day in the timeline where the project budget could be presented different from the operating budget. When you look at all the information that has to be provided on this day, even for seasoned folks who've seen this information before, I'm thinking this is a huge amount of information, and it could should be divided into 2 days.
Okay, so just looking at administration, is there an option within, because we do have quite set timelines. So we have the council meeting of the 26th and we have the council meeting of December 10th. And we do want our budget passed by December on the December 10th meeting. So is there an opportunity to put another workshop day in between November 4th and November 26th where it would allow administration time to still do all your work in between the November 26th meeting?
Reeve, yes, I think we probably could after RMA, but it would need to be more than a week before November 26th to meet the agenda deadline, because the deadline for the November 26th agenda is the Wednesday before that. So
Right.
that would be the 19th. So I think there's an opportunity the week of 17 to 17, 18, maybe. The week before that, I believe, is RMA. So, and then the week before that is AM conference. So probably not. And then we have our orientation obligations that have changed through the MGA amendments that are mandatory. So we do have to make sure we prioritize those over other things.
Yep.
So probably the 17th or 18th might be of November would be an optional second date. We could certainly pencil that in, recognizing that when the post-election, council will verify the schedule and dates, and
Right.
they're going to be subject to the discretion of the future council.
Okay, so just looking whether or not council wants to already put in an optional date, I think that it would make sense to try and still do all of the work on November 4th, but at least have a backup date in case we did need to push it. And then with the big benefit of those that are onboarding to council, knowing kind of what the commitment will be between now and the end of the year, it's easier to cancel a meeting than it is to make a meeting. So Councillor Fulton.
Just for clarity, it says the fall RMA convention is 17th to the 20th November. Just looked it up. So that's just for clarity there, that the timeline is fairly snug through that time.
So how does that change your recommendation then, Jeff?
Well, it would eliminate it, Reeve. So
Perfect. All right then. So it looks like we're going to have a long day on the 4th of November then.
certainly we could look at, I think the 5th is a council meeting. So we could look at maybe the 6th or the 7th of November, possibly. It's, I mean, a bit of a disadvantage not having access to everybody's calendars. Laura, do you see any issues with the November 6th or 7th?
Sorry, Greg, did you have
Yeah, just 6th is seniors housing, so that takes out 2 of us. I have no problems with having a backup date, but not setting an actual meeting until we see how we go through it. It's, you know, we've had lunch and dinner here before, so we go late.
Let's pencil in November 7th and then to be determined or to be confirmed after it, so that we recognize it may not be the best date, but there's no reason we can't have, if the content is just too long for one workshop, maybe having them closer together is a better strategy anyway.
Okay, so I'm just going to look, otherwise we'll put a motion. Would you like that in the form of a motion, Jeff, or am I okay to look and see if there's anyone who isn't in favor of that? And if we have consensus, we'll move forward. Okay, so you're looking at November 6th or 7th, did you say?
It'd be November 7th to then not book over top of a seniors housing.
Okay, so just looking if there is anyone opposed to setting November 7th in the calendar as an optional follow-up date if required. Is there anyone, everyone is okay with that? Okay, so I'm seeing no one opposed to that, so we'll add that to the schedule. Okay, is there any other questions on the budget timeline? No, then we have a motion, and I'll move that council approve the proposed 2026 budget timeline as amended. Is there any further discussions? No, seeing none, then I'll call the question. All in favor? And that motion's carried. 9.5, tax penalty cancellation request. Jeff, please.
Thank you, Reeve. I will ask Mike Krieger to present this item as he's been handling the request from the applicant.
Thank you, Jeff. Yeah, the RFD starts on page 264 of the agenda package. It's a request for tax penalty cancellation for Formosa Limited or Formosa Mountain Limited. Brief background, they took ownership of 2 properties in November of 2022. In 2023, there was an assessment appeal which resulted in a reduction of assessed value to the larger parcel, roll ending in 1,000. In 2024, a tax recovery notice was registered to title, and since then, the owners entered into a formal tax payment agreement. So their formal request for tax forgiveness is for the penalty portion only. Starts on page 266 of your agenda package with the tax transaction history on page 268, showing the penalty and payment history. So as we have before you the request, we'll look for council's direction on how to proceed.
Okay. So maybe I will look for a motion and then discussion, or would you like to have discussion first? Councillor Harris.
I'll put a motion forward.
Thank you.
Council cancel outstanding tax penalties in the amount of $73,186.07.
Okay. Thank you. So discussion. Councillor Harris.
I won't support this.
All right. Councillor Johnson.
Although it is my intent to support it, I think that in their letter of forgiveness, when they quote exorbitant penalties, I wonder if going forward, we might want to revisit the policy that sets the penalties and adjust them. I know that we talked about it at length previous, and I wonder if this might be something that we would reconsider going forward.
Okay, so we will deal with the issue at hand, which is first looking at the tax penalties. Is there any more discussion on the motion? Councillor Miller.
Yeah, I can't support it either. This is a business decision made by the owners. It didn't work out to their benefit, like any other entity. There is penalties and fines that we all have to adhere to. So yeah, I can't support it.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion? Councillor Nixon.
Just wondering if historically we've ever done anything like reduce the penalties without fully getting rid of them.
Jeff.
That would be at council's discretion. Historically, from memory, I think council has historically either granted the full request or denied the request, but it's fully within council's authority to pick a different number or a different adjustment based on the information in the agenda package.
All right. Is there any further discussion? So we have a motion on the floor to cancel the tax penalties. So if there's no further discussion, I will call to question. So just sometimes these motions are a bit confusing. So if you vote in favor of this, then we will cancel the tax penalty. If you vote in opposition to this, then the tax penalty will remain in place. Just as clarification on the way the motion is written. Okay, so with that, I will call to question. All in favor? And all those opposed? And so that motion is lost. And so, Councillor Johnson, I guess it will be up to the next council to look at the policy, because we normally, Jeff, we normally do that policy review when it comes to setting the tax rate bylaws, and prior to setting the tax rate bylaws, we look at all of that again, don't we?
Yeah, it's part of our review of the tax rate bylaw, the early payment incentive and the penalties. And this council, during this council term, we have had extensive discussion on it.
Yeah, and I believe our first penalty is 4%. Is that correct? Just sorry.
Yeah, I'll let Mike
Yeah.
answer that. He has the specifics on it.
I think it's 4%. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah, and just out of interest, I thought it was, so they had it on the radio the other day, the city of Calgary is 7%, right off the hop. So I think we have done extensive reviews to see where we align with most municipalities, and we are not, we used to be very far out of line with our 2%, and so council has historically tried to make that first penalty more, I guess, harsher to try and encourage more payments in the beginning. But we'll leave that to the next council. 9.6, bridge file 2377 tender results. Ryan, please.
Morning. Presented in this RFD is the tender results for bridge file 2377. So this is the first domino on the Acme Road reconstruction. This is the little bridge that's just east of Highway 766 that we didn't do when we did the first construction back around 2011. This was tendered out. A&A Paving was the selected tender, or the low tender. We did pre-qualify this to, as per policy, for 10 vendors, and they came in with the lowest price. So a portion of the money goes towards the bridge, which we're funding out of the bridge reserve, and the other portion is the road work that comes in, because the new bridge is going to be quite higher than the existing bridge. That will fund the road work that will go to it. So we're just sending this to council as information, and if you have any questions about the project.
Council, any questions for Ryan?
Just curious, Ryan, what the go around or the detour will be.
It'll be, you will go down through Madden, 290, back up 766.
Okay, thanks.
Because it's all chip sealed, right?
Okay, so we're looking fairly decent on this bridge replacement, where we're not very far over budgeted.
No, we're in where we thought we would be on this one.
Perfect. Okay. There's no further discussion, and we do have a motion. Councillor Fulton.
I'll move the council accept the tender results for bridge file 2377 replacement and accompanying road work as information.
Thank you. Any further discussion? I'll call to question. All in favor? And that motion's carried. And 9.7, bridge file 2474 tender results. Ryan.
Similar to the last one, bridge file 2474 was in the budget for this year to be replaced. This is a large, tall bridge on the Bergethal Road, just on the west side of Highway 2. Been on our radar for a very long time. As per the previous RFD, this project was pre-qualified, and out of the 9 contractors, 6 actually submitted tenders on this, and the low bidder was McLeod Earthworks, who we've been doing a fair bit of work with them the last 3 years or so. They've been really coming in and hitting our bridge stuff hard. So we're sending this to council as information, and if you have any questions, I'm more willing to answer them.
Thank you. Council, any questions? No? Then we have a motion on page 273. Councillor Lutz.
I move that council accept the tender results for bridge file 2474 replacement as information.
Thank you. Any further discussion? I'll call to question. All in favor? And that motion's carried. On to 9.8, permanent road closure with Old Stidsbury Airport. Ryan. Christopher. I'm just going to keep going down the line.
I can, it says, I'm sure it says operational services on it.
Well, it does, but
I can provide
I
a
have
quick
the
overview.
applicant in the house.
Yeah, I am the applicant. So as council is aware, we have conditionally sold 2 lots over at the old Stittsbury Airport. Those 2 lots are conditional on this road closure proceeding. So if you look at the map that is contained on page 279 of the agenda package, you'll see the red section right now is a portion of road allowance. And the applicant or the purchaser is looking for that portion to be consolidated into the lot that's hatched in yellow. And the purpose of that is just to give them a more usable lot there on the south portion. They don't believe that the roadway is required for access to that lot. From a history perspective, these 2 lots used to be 3 lots if council remembers. And as such, that little portion was previously required in order to provide physical access to that eastern lot. Now that those 2 lots have been consolidated, there are, or now that the 3 lots have been turned into 2 lots, there is sufficient roadway there to have the physical access to that eastern lot already. So that is what has been requested of the purchaser and the rationale that we have brought it forward to you. And we are looking to close it in accordance with section 22 of the MGA, and then to subsequently consolidate that closed portion into that eastern lot for us to be able to proceed with the lot sale.
Okay, is there any questions for Christopher or for Ryan? If not, then we have a motion on page 276. Councillor Nixon.
I move that council direct the chief administration officer to seek approval from the Minister of Transportation to permanently close a portion of an internal service road adjacent to road plan 2311025, block 1, lot 67, in accordance with section 22, road closure by resolution of the Municipal Government Act, and to consolidate the closed portion into the existing lot within the old Stittsbury Airport located in southeast 5321 west of the 5th.
Thank you. Any further discussion? I'll call to question. Oh, sorry, Councillor Harris.
Sorry, just a question. Section 22 has 2 very different provisions in it. Would it have more clarity if it included the subsection? I think it would be sub 4.
Yeah, that's correct. It is sub 4.
Just so it doesn't go to transportation and they think it's the other one.
Sure.
Are you making amendment to the motion, Councillor Harris?
Yeah, I would move that we add subsection 4 after line 3, where it says in accordance with section 22, road closure. In between road closure and section 22, put in sub 4 in parentheses.
Okay, and just looking at administration, that you can confirm that is the correct subsection? Yes? Okay, so we have an amending motion to include subsection 4 behind section 22. Does anyone need to see that on the screen, or is that fairly, okay? So there's no discussion on the amending motion, so we will, I'll call to question on the amending motion. All those in favor? And that motion is carried, and so now we're back to the main motion. Is there any further discussion on the motion? I'll call the question on the motion. All in favor? And that motion's carried. 9.9, 2025 hard road surface repair plan. I know this is Ryan.
Yes. Presented in this RFD is the 2025 Operations Services Hard Road Surfacing Plan. So this is the maintenance plan that we do for our chip seal roads, our paved roads. This is everything we're working on. So most of council has seen this report. I try to make it exactly the same every year for consistency. So we went out and evaluated the roads. Right now we're seeing about 75% of our roads are coming in looking pretty good. And we have a small portion needing some minor repair, and another portion needing minor or major repair. The interesting part when we looked at the numbers this year after we ran them through GIS is they're exactly the same as last year. So that's a good thing that 75% of our roads are good. but it also shows that we're not gaining on what we're doing. So hopefully after this season, we'll see a larger gain because we are doing some significant base stabilization work and some other projects. So hopefully next year we'll be able to see this go up by a percentage point or so. That would be a victory as far as we're concerned. This year, we have a map that's attached for the subdivision surfacing budget. We're going to redo Sun Valley Acres. So that is a subdivision that is kind of halfway up the river road west of Sundre. Two gigantic bulbs in it that have been falling apart that we're going to fix. We're actually going to shrink them down in size because they're far too large right now. Like they just don't drain water off very well. And the other one too, Doyle Drive is the local name for it. The locals put a sign up there. That is the road that's just on the north side of the Rosewood Campground off of Highway 760. Pretty rough shape. We were actually going to do it a couple years ago, and we had some issues with patrol in there. We had some issues with some building materials stacked on the road, and we just couldn't get it all moved in time to go do the work. So everything's clear. We're on good rapport with the ratepayers on that subdivision, and we'll go get that one fixed here. Most of the subdivision work should be done by mid-July. The next page up is the base stabilization program. So even though we're at the end of June here now, we've actually started most of these. So the first one there for doing base was the Township Road 303, the Carstairs Blind Line. That road has now been based and double chipped. And then in quadrant 2, we have a little piece of the Bergen Road between Range Road 24 and 23, which is actually already underway. The crews are out there this week. We pulverized it last week. Any of you came in from the West Country probably got diverted, or maybe you were able to sneak through. Where we pulverized it, worked it before the rain. The crews are laying down geotextile on that 3/4 of a mile, and then we're going to rebase that and work on this. This piece of road is one of the roads that we've been working on consistently for the last, I don't know, 20 years, trying to get it fixed better. And it's a mystery to us. Every time we pack it, it's rock hard. So we decided to change tactics and put in some geotextile to see if we can get that piece of road to stabilize. The large portion of the projects are in Harmat and Eagle Hill. So we do have to finish basing the road from the Campbell Bridge up to the Eagle Hill Road. That was pulverized last year. We'll get that base this year. Once the crews are done on this piece of Bergen, they're going to be moving up there. And then we've been working on Range Road 40 from Highway 27 all the way down to Zella Hall on the Bergen Road. So that road should be completely pulverized by end of the week. And we've already base prepped from the highway down to the old school. And now we're working south on that one. So that's a pretty large project, pretty big for the residents in that area, because there's just nowhere for them to go to get around the construction. And then the final piece of that we're planning on doing is Range Road 44. So that is from Highway 27 south through Westward Ho by the campground, and then heading south that way. That road it's been on our list for a very long time, and we've perpetually pushed it off, and now we're going to make sure we hit this road. The next map, I'll touch on that after. That's the Sun Valley Acres. The last map we have there is the 2025 proposed long patching. So these are the long patching locations that we're proposing on doing this year. This list is probably going to get a little larger, the same as last year in our consultations with the oil companies in Eagle Hill, where we're pretty confident that we're going to be able to get some more long patching out of them along that Garrington Road corridor. But this is where we're planning on doing the patching. We've got a long list of patching, and every year it's based on priority budget chipping. We try and do our best to try and level this up as best we can. And then going back up to page 291, we have this map here. So this is the map that we did up showing where our worst roads are in the county, where our good roads are. we're really seeing where we started the base stabilization program about 11 years ago on the east side of the county, especially in the Wimborne area. And we're definitely seeing a large improvement in the roads up there. And the east side of the county is looking pretty good right now. Still, our primary issues are in the Eagle Hill area and in the Harmattan area. That's where you're going to see our crews a lot in the next couple of years, is working in that area. I know we were focused a handful of years ago on the Carstairs blind line coming out of there. We do have a little bit of road left to work on that, but hopefully after our chipping program this year and the base stabilization, we can kind of vacate that area. So this map here is where we're seeing our emerging issues in roads. So we're seeing some emerging issues down in Deer Springs. We did rip most of that road from Highway 766 to the town site in Deer Springs. But now we're definitely seeing issues from where we stopped working on that road going north up to the Acme Road. We did some chipping on it last year, but it's just, it's not reacting super well to us. So we're going to keep watching it. We're not proposing doing anything on it right now, but it's definitely on our radar, and we are getting service requests from some of the public in there. And then what we call the Garfield Road, we have done some work on there. We did the curves a couple years ago, but going north of Highway 580, we don't get any complaints from the residents in there, but it's something that we're watching. The road is narrow and does require a lot of repair every year. Fallen Timber Trail north of Township 310, we're seeing through the curves and stuff, the road is starting to deteriorate. And that one's a major route through there. So that's something we're going to keep a really close eye on, just because if that piece of road, when we work on it, you go west of there, there's no other way in and out of that area of the county. Bearberry going up to Clearwater County, north of the store, and then the road that accesses down to the store, we're seeing a lot of issues on there. We've been kind of patching it, and we'd like to continue to patching it. Eagle Hill Co-op, different places on the Eagle Hill Road. We're just watching them. There's also what we call a feedlot. We're trying not to use names on this map, but going east of 766, there's a feedlot there that is really beating the heck out of the road, and we're going to try and keep on top of the repairs there. Even though we're not using names, there was no other one to name this. There's Notley Oil. That's from Hainstock Hall going east to 766. That piece of road it's not in bad shape, but it's definitely something that's taking a lot of work. Continuing to the Garrington area, we need to continue doing some work and planning in there. Ozachek Heights, it's one that for councilors that have been on for a long time, it's very common. It's always coming up all the time. It's just southwest of Sundre. It's a really wet, soft area, and we're constantly having problems in there with the road falls apart, or we had an Amazon truck get stuck in the middle of the road there this spring. Like it's just a swamp up in this area. And then White Pit, we're going to do some repairs there this year, but these are the areas we're going to try and put some enhanced maintenance on. And then all the roads around Olds, which is a very general statement. We're just, in the last 20 years with Olds growing, we're just seeing more and more pressure on the roads leading into Olds. Range Road 20, Range Road 15, Range Road 14 on the north end. We're just seeing all of them where we're enhancing the maintenance on them. We've been chipping them. We're doing work on them. It's just Olds is just drawing more and more people into it all the time. And we're always working on them. And they're also high generators of actual service requests too. People have no problem phoning in, telling us that there's potholes in the road on their commute into Olds. So that is everything I have prepared. Does council have any questions?
Thank you. Questions for Ryan? Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Ryan. I see that you have proposed for a major repair, Range Road 40 going south of Eagle Hill. And I wondered if you would comment on that. I drove that road this morning. The Red Bridge over the Little Red Deer River is on the south end of that. Red Deer County on the north end doesn't allow any industrial traffic. So I was surprised to see that you're proposing major repair, I'm thinking that road's in pretty good shape.
Which map are you referring to?
The map on page 291.
291. So on there, we're more proposing doing major repair on the north end, north of 340. Yeah, I apologize. I don't think that map is just a correct representation of what we're planning there in
Okay.
that area. Apologies.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
Hey, is there any other questions for Ryan? No? So I'm just as a FYI, I went to the Sundry Forest Products open house last week, and it sounds like they're going to start hauling more logs on the Coal Camp Road. So I've asked them to just be in touch with our operations department to, I don't know if we want to put out more of a FYI for our residents along that road, but I was surprised that they were going to start hauling on that road.
I'm surprised too. We haven't heard anything from them.
No, so maybe just, I did ask them to get in touch, but maybe just reach out and find out what their plans are for haul routes for this summer.
Well, I know with Sundry Forest Products, pursuing them on their road use agreement has always been a challenge. They feel that they don't need one, but we'll track them down with Christopher's staff help. We'll track them down on the side of the road.
Sounds good. And it's, I don't know if other counselors are hearing the same things in their divisions, but it's great that a lot of the problem areas that you say your operations department are going to be looking at are the same areas that we're getting concerns on. So it's good that there's an alignment, and that must mean that the public is obviously having some input as well, and that your operations staff in the field are really noticing where the work needs to be done. So that all sounds great. Councillor Johnson.
Just an additional question, Ryan, if I might. I think that you had suggested that on Range Road 44, that perhaps industry was going to cooperate with us in doing some more work there. Can you just tell us a little bit more what you've got in mind?
Sure. So there's some more repairs that have come onto that road that we want to do. Plus, we want to repair some of the repairs we did last year as well. And then actually in the Eagle Hill area, kind of more on Township 340, Whitecap has asked us if we could do some paving for them and they would pay for it. Some different improvements that they want to do in some different spots. And we said, yeah, we'll gladly do it for you. So I think we're just trying to work with the two main oil companies in there to work with us on some of these improvements that are going on, say like, graveling, paving, all these different things like that, to try and get them to work on those with us instead of against us and fighting us on it.
For the long patching that might be done on Range Road 44, can we ask that it be the full lane width this time?
Yes.
Rather than last?
That's something that, last year we definitely shrunk the patches down so we could get more patches in. But no, they're all going to be either full lane or half lane patches, not these squares that we did in the previous year we were really trying to stretch it as far as we could last year, so.
Okay. And Ryan, maybe just on page 289, it was interesting that you had said we're not seem to be gaining on some of the major and minor road repairs. I know that we did fall behind on regraveling years and years ago, and then we upped the level of service for a short period of time. I think if you have an option 2 for council to consider for the budget, if we actually put a little bit more money into the minor road repairs to shrink that and stop them from going from minor to major, we always encourage you to give us options for council to consider.
Sure.
I know we're also strapped with actually bodies and equipment.
Yes.
But if there's some options for council to look at this year where we could try and close that gap of the 25% major minor, I'm sure council would appreciate the opportunity to at least engage in that discussion.
Sure.
All right. Is there anything else, any other questions for Ryan? If not, Councillor Fulton.
I'll move that council accept the 2025 hard road surface plan as information with no further action to be taken.
Thank you.
Just before we vote on that, we've amended that a little bit with the change to the map. So do you want to say as amended?
I think Ryan will just bring that map back again. It's just information. Yeah, it doesn't change the actual work program. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. Any further discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor? And that motion's carried. 9.10, Town of Didsbury funding request. Jeff, please.
Thank you, Reeve. On page 295 is a request from the town of Didsbury. This did go through our Didsbury ICC committee and has been recommended to council for consideration. The town is asking for Mountain View County to partner in the repairs of their condenser unit. This is a unit that failed last December, I believe it was. As you'll recall from the 2025 budget, project sheet LS 2509 approved $47,000 in county funding towards intermunicipal projects in Didsbury. This RFD is presented with a maximum of $77,687 to bring the total 2025 contribution for the town of Didsbury ICC projects to the policy maximum of $125,000. So with that, the full detail on the project from the town of Didsbury is on page 295. And I can try and answer any questions, or my fellow Didsbury ICC members can answer questions as well.
Okay, is there any questions from council on this? No? Then we have a recommended motion. Councillor Miller.
I would move that, one moment here, got to go back up. I would move the council approve the cost sharing of the municipal portion of the Didsbury condenser unit project to a maximum of $77,687 funded from the intermunicipal collaboration reserve.
Thank you. So Jeff, one of the things that we talked about, and I'm just making sure that this gives you enough flexibility. One of the things we talked about is if Didsbury was able to either defer some of the other projects, or if they came in and they were funded less because we're not paying the full portion of the condenser because we have the maximum 125. Does this give you enough flexibility in the motion the way it is that you could allocate additional dollars that maybe were unused from some of the other culture and rec projects to this, as long as we stick within the policy guidelines?
It does, Reeve. I'm comfortable with it based on the policy wording of 8,006
Okay.
and the maximum budget approval of 125.
Okay.
I would put those two together to use some administrative discretion to facilitate projects as long as they're the same scope and the same projects. Certainly if the scope changes, then that's something that council would probably have to weigh in on and provide guidance to me. But as long as the scope of what they're proposing to do doesn't change, then I do believe it provides enough flexibility.
Okay, thank you for that. So is there any further discussion? I'll call to question. All in favor? And that motion is carried. And this is, I think it's just important to note. So 3 of our municipal partners have now reached out with projects to the maximum 125 spending. And then we've got Carstairs at just over $40,000 in funding requests. So congratulations to this council, I think, for the changes to the policy 8006. And not only that, but the communication and working really collaboratively with our partners. It's great to see this money go into the community where I know our residents are benefiting greatly from that as well. So yay, yes. All right, so now we will move on to councillor reports, and I'm going to start with Councillor Lutz.
Well, I was away in Ireland, which was awesome, and did get 3 calls when I was away and some emails, but some road concerns. And then the big one is residents in Division 7 being charged by Olds Fire Department for fire services. So I think we're going to, administration's working on that, but there is concern on a surprise. And I guess I sent an email out. One risk is that people don't phone fire anymore, that they'll try and manage it on their own if they're going to see a large bill. So hopefully we can address that.
So Jeff, do you have any comments for us on this? This is the second incident, I think, that's been brought forward fairly recently.
Yeah, so a couple of comments. We don't have, we're still working through it with the town of Olds, so we don't have finality yet. However, There's a couple of pieces of legislation at play, one being our fire agreement with the town of Olds, and part two being the town of Olds and the Mountain View County Fire Service bylaws. And so the town of Olds has changed their fire service bylaw to start billing their residents within town. As you know, a town of Olds bylaw only has applicability within the town of Olds boundaries. So any bylaw changes the town of Olds make do not affect Mountain View County residents. So we're just going to work through that administratively with them, make sure the town understands that their bylaw doesn't apply in the county, and that our fire agreement does not contemplate billing for fire services unless it's a large incident, and then it's at the discretion of the Mountain View County CAO on whether we send a bill or not. And typically, we reserve those circumstances for large incidents that trigger insurance claims. So we're still working through that. We don't have feedback from the town yet, so I can't give you any certainty other than we're certain that our agreements and bylaws that are in place do not support bills going to our residents as they're currently written. I believe I understand council direction that our residents should not be billed for routine fire services.
Okay, and maybe just a follow-up to that, Jeff, how do we work with the residents that are actually receiving the fire bills to, I mean, obviously a big concern that, you know, residents may not feel like they want to call the fire departments, fearing they may be charged. How are we working with the residents that are receiving these fire bills?
Yeah, so first we need to get a hold of the town and sort that out
Okay.
as the first order of business, and then we'll sort out, you know, how they're gonna handle the bill, or dismissal of the bill, and whether the town will be communicating that or the county is responsible for communicating that. So we'll have to figure that out.
Okay.
And then, of course, wider communications. You know, we're hoping to resolve this amicably without, you know, doing a PR battle with each other. So we'll need to figure out that piece, but we're waiting for the town to re-engage with us so we can sort all that out before we enhance our communications.
Okay. Thank you. So just encourage residents to continue to work with your elected official, and yeah, we'll work hard to make sure that we sort this out in a timely fashion. And obviously we're apologetic for any inconvenience that this has caused, and we'll work hard to resolve the matter. Councillor Lutz, anything else?
Nope, that's it.
All right, Councillor Harris.
Since last council meeting, we had some meetings with staff over some development issues in my area, and permit issues, and that went very well. 19th attended the NRCP meeting, which was very productive. I think the information was kind of higher level surface, but I think a lot of questions got answered. Also on the 19th was the seniors housing, but I'll leave that to our chair, Councillor Fulton. And I was able to attend and participate in a Bear Smart presentation at the James River Hall. Really well attended. It was the hall was packed, but with both it was a collaborative effort between our department and Clearwater County, which was nice to see. Attended the Sunday Pro Rodeo Parade, and I have to give all kudos to the residents of Sundre because they found ways to get out there under tents. People opened their garages, and they were full, so it wasn't just the residents. They had fire pits, propane fire pits going in most of them to stay warm, but they were there. And also kudos to we were in a closed car, so it wasn't a huge deal, but there were lots of people out on open floats and horseback, including our new MP for Yellowhead, who was out there back and forth, getting soaked. So yeah, I think it was a great event. And then lastly, the regional policing meeting yesterday with Carstairs, just going through, and I think that'll come forward at a future council meeting, clearing up or asking some questions on the move forward, and that'll come to council. That's it.
Thank you. And Councillor Harris, I caught it at the very end. Is there another Bear Smart meeting at the Bearberry coming up? It's tonight.
But they're holding its same presentation and use of bear spray at the Bearberry Hall.
Yeah, and what time does that start?
I want to say 6:30. I can check and let you know.
Thank you. Okay. Councillor Miller.
Okay, so very short, the 19th, myself, like other councillors, attended the NRCB meeting here regarding responsibilities and permitting of CFOs in our area. Then that afternoon, we had a special meeting called for Mountain View Regional Waste Commission, and I'm pretty happy to announce that July 1st is our target date for our recycling to be up and running. So it'll be at the Water Valley Transfer Site, Sundre Transfer Site, and the Didsbury Landfill. So that's something pretty exciting. Mountain View Regional Waste Commission will put out communications shortly announcing this. And we do hope for a July 1st target date, but I'm sure that could be a few days here or there. So they will announce the actual opening date. So I think that's good for our county residents to have that option for those that do utilize that type of need. And then other than that, just a few calls from residents regarding how we purchase our equipment and some road issues, and that's about it.
Thank you. Councillor Johnson.
Just a question for
Oh,
Councillor
sorry.
Miller. So what's involved with the recycling? Recycling what?
So the recycling will take in glass, tin, and cardboard. Those are the main ones that will appear right away.
Thank you. Sorry, Councillor Letts. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you. I attended the Eagle Valley Cemetery cleanup. We had an excellent turnout for that. Helped with the Sundre Hospital Futures at Westward Ho Park. Sundre Hospital Futures did a barbecue at the park to promote a bridge about the work that's being done on the new Sundre Hospital and the work that the Sundre Hospital Futures is doing. The folks at Westward Ho Park were very thankful and cooperative in that. The Ag Service Board meeting, there was ongoing discussion about the land lease policy. Still doing some work on that. Attended the MPC and the NRCB, was interested to learn from NRCB that even in their small staff of 34, that includes 4 scientists and 2 lawyers. So certainly they have a pretty skookum staff like us. The Red Deer River Watershed Alliance Annual General Meeting. The keynote speaker was Dr. Masaki Hayashi, who spoke about understanding groundwater, surface water interaction. He has been doing work in the area of Rocky View County for about 10 years, where they're using citizen science to collect static water levels in wells. He presented some of that information. He talked about the $1,500 piece of equipment they need in order to do citizen science. I think I will propose to Ag Service Board that we perhaps look at acquiring that piece of equipment for our ratepayers to use in order to measure ongoing static water levels in their wells. There's lots of interesting information that can come out of those trends. Certainly, the longer you gather information for, the more meaningful the trends are. So if we utilized our working well workshops, because not all wells meet the criteria for that, but many of them do, I think there's real potential for us to garner some really good information and decisions that might come out of that. Also attended the Sundry Rodeo Parade and the rodeo, both very, very well done, and a Sundry Wellness Advocacy meeting yesterday.
Thank you. Councillor Nixon.
So after the last council meeting, I was able to attend the RPAP Awards in Sundry. And it was wonderful to see Chantel get her award and to hear about all of her hard work be showcased to everybody that was in that room. It was a very well attended event, and I think that she more than deserved that award. So it's great to see that some of our folks can be recognized where it's due for sure. And then I also attended the Greenwood Neighborhood Place 25-year dedication for the 2 trees and the bench, MPC meeting, the NRCB meeting, Sundry Pro Rodeo. I also thought it was great. Just as we went along the route there, watching people with their fire pits and kids with umbrellas and rain boots on and tarps set up and canopies set up and people just trying to figure out any way to still be out there and show their support. And collect their candy, except for all the stuff that went down the river that was going down the side of the road there from all the rain. Poor kids were chasing it down there. Somebody was pretty smart. They had a net. So I thought that was a great idea. Catch all the candy. You don't even have to run anywhere. But great to see how many people came out in the pouring rain to attend that event as well. And the rodeo as well. Fantastic, muddy. Those some of the contestants who were bucked off or fell off or didn't quite make it on, get drugged through the mud and fall in the mud. It's probably a little softer than other years. And then to watch those poor kids at the wild pony races just get dragged around that arena, just sopped in mud. It was pretty good. It's always a fun time. So I'd just like to congratulate the Pro Rodeo and the parade committee for all of their hard work. It's a lot of effort to put that on. I think they do a great job. Of course, always helping people and residents with their concerns. We had some signs turned the other day. Thank you very much to admin, and I assume it was ops staff that went and did that after I emailed. So appreciate getting that done. That was the sign for the Bergen Hall Canada Day breakfast, which unfortunately I won't be able to be attending to. That's the day that my children graduate. So we are booked for the entire day with all of the grad events and things. So hopefully that event goes really, really well, and hopefully the weather's great. I don't know, it's iffy.
And that is why rural kids are tough, because those kids would eat anything. Didn't matter what was floating down. They were picking those things up, and they was and great on the parents as well. That's why our rural kids are so tough. Councillor Fulton.
All right, so back on June 12th, Mountain View Seniors Housing CAO and I attended the Town of Carstairs policy and priority meeting just to begin the discussion about potential for future build in Carstairs. The discussion was very good and robust, and I think we learned some things, and they learned some things about what Mountain View Seniors Housing can do and has a plan for. That evening, I attended the Carstairs Seed Plant Board meeting. A bit of a challenge there. Their plant manager passed away quite suddenly, so they're in a bit of a spot right now, but luckily it's summer and they can work on recruiting a new plant manager. They have a second employee that's going to look after some day-to-day stuff there for that until a new manager can be hired. On the 14th, I was able to bring greetings to the Koinonia grad class at the Baptist Church in Olds. That was they need a bigger facility, man. It just, back in the day, I guess they've always been at the Baptist Church, but there's 28 grads, I believe. It was and it's very full, and it's quite an event, never been before, so I was happy to be there. The 16th had Carstairs Library Board meeting. Plan of service work continuing. We're going to have a one-day workshop in September. Public surveys have been out, reaching out to the community to see what we citizens would like to see from the library in the future. And then the 19th had the MPC meeting in the morning, and then the NRCB presentation, and then off to Mountain View Seniors Housing. Big news out of the meeting is we passed our 2026 to 2028 business plan that goes to the province. So that was quite a lengthy document. Happy to have that done and pushed on. And we continually going through the policies, just much like us. So we had seven new policies, our updated policies, and rescinded 3 policies there. So apparently there has been some policies that are quite dusty and need to be looked at. And actually, we have some policies that we never had before. So it's on top of that. So that's all I have.
Excellent. Okay, so it's already been mentioned about Chantel Crawford and her Rhapsody Hero Award. Amazing. I was able to attend the opening ceremonies for the Elks Conference in Olds and the President's Ball. It really is just an amazing organization, and the funds that they raise and the community support that they provide it's inspiring, and they're just a wonderful group of people. We had our last Playhouse meeting last night, so looking forward to July 1st. We've roped Councillor Lutz into coming, and Councillor Harris will be cooking breakfast for us. So please come and enjoy a breakfast at the BMO Bank of Montreal parking lot. 7 o'clock it starts on July 1st, and then the whole day is the Playhouse build. And then the draw is at, I think the judging is at 4:15-ish, 4:30-ish. We have 9 kids that are coming anywhere between the ages of 3 and 8 to judge the playhouses. And yeah, that's looking forward to that. And then obviously the draw after that. So a full day of fun. Please come out if you can. We'll have a t-shirt for you. You can swing a hammer, throw a paintbrush, lots of exciting stuff. So with that, that is the end of the council reports. Is there any questions? No? Then we have, could I have a motion to accept all of those for information? Moved by Councillor Nixon. And I will call to question. All in favor? And that motion is carried. And so I don't think Mr. Richmond has joined us yet. No? Okay. And so we have our STARS delegation here. And so we will move on to 5.2 delegation and ask the STARS, the star people to come forward. Thank you for making the journey to our council meeting. We appreciate having you come every year and report all of your wonderful life-saving experiences during the year. So I will hand it over.
Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to come back to Mountain View County. Certainly a beautiful drive this morning with all of the rain, a little greener than usual. So this year, STARS is celebrating our 40th anniversary. Over 63,000 missions flown to date, and we still are providing the highest level of critical care, spanning from our 1 base in Calgary to now our 6 bases across Western Canada. And as a charitable organization, continuing to operate after all of this time at no cost to the patient. You may have heard, it was last year around this time that we did announce that we secured another 10-year service agreement with our largest donor, Alberta Health Services. So we greatly appreciate the sustainability this provides for STARS. And after that, in Alberta alone, we must fundraise 56% of our direct operating costs. And thankfully, the STARS Lottery is still our largest fundraiser, bringing in enough proceeds to pay for 1 base in Alberta. Next slide, please. Of course, part of our funding, a good portion of it, over 2 million, comes from our municipal initiative. So this map of Alberta and northeastern BC shows the different levels of support. And as you can see, we do have over 95% of Alberta rural municipalities supporting in a united effort. And 75% of those are regional leaders. Mountain View County is a regional leader, contributing well above the $2 per capita, contributing $4 per capita. So thank you very much for that. The light gray on the map, light blue actually, shows the less than $2 per capita support, and then our regional leaders in the sea of blue across the map that are anywhere from $2 up to $85 per capita. Provincial leaders are shown in green, who have a logo on our helicopter, so many on a standing motion and a fixed rate of support as part of their emergency protective services budget, creating greater sustainability for STARS as well. Our regional partnerships throughout different counties and MDs continue to grow, and those are shown with a red boundary around them. So this is where the MD or county, in partnership with the towns and villages, are all united in support of STARS. Basically, all in all, this creates a robust health and safety network for all of us. Next slide, please. Okay. So here is a mission overview of all missions flown within Mountain View County boundaries over the last 15 years. With it being our 40th anniversary this year, we thought we would provide you with a greater history of your area as well. So, of course, a very busy area, on average 56 missions per year, 3 hospitals throughout Mountain View County. So many of those which are interfacility transfers. And then, of course, a number of scene calls throughout the area where your fire department and other fire departments help land our helicopters. So we greatly appreciate that. And then with the interfacility transfers, patients are picked up normally by ground ambulance, and if deemed critical, then STARS is called to do an interfacility transfer. Next slide, please. Our postal code project also dates back to 2010. So by accessing patient postal code information only, we tracked this data back and found that 479 total area residents, so all residents that hold a postal code within Mountain View County, including rural residents who may pick up their mail within a town, would fall under these statistics. So 479 flown since 2010, 411 picked up within Mountain View County, and 68 residents flown from 43 other locations across Western Canada, so across all 4 prairie provinces. This is testament to the value of our partnership, showing that not only are you supporting your residents with the highest level of critical care within your boundaries, but also across Western Canada, wherever they may travel. All right, so we thought we would share a little more insight into our mission log through the Emergency Link Center in Calgary. So on average, STARS is averaging 11 missions per day from our 6 bases. And on this particular day, there were 18 different types of possible missions. We do share also resources across all of the province, whether it be our air medical crew, training, etc. So over 60,000 missions to date. And on this particular day, I'll just go over a few of these missions just to provide a little more information on how STARS is available on all modes of transport. Mission number 3 was for a NICU patient, and this is where our crew actually transported the NICU team out to where the critically ill patient was, provided care on site, and then went by ground ambulance with the baby. Mission number 7 was near Edmonton for a rollover incident. And after the STARS transport physician received more information, it was deemed that it was no longer medically required for transport. Mission number 7 was near Edmonton for a workshop explosion. And after receiving more information, it was deemed the best mode of transport for the patient. It was a different mode of transport. Mission number 10 was out of Grand Prairie for a motor vehicle collision, and it was deemed best for that patient that they go by ground with the air medical crew. So there's different incidents or different health needs of the patient, whether it be respiratory, where they can't fly, or perhaps are a bariatric patient who cannot be safely strapped in to the helicopter. And so then alternate transportation is arranged. So that is a day in the life of what comes through the Emergency Link Center in Calgary. Next slide, please. All right. STARS does have night vision goggle capability and continues to innovate, also adding the universal blood on board over 10 years ago now. In 2019, we increased to 4 units of blood, and now we've bolstered our air medical crew toolkit by adding a new medication for hemorrhage control. So basically, if the crew member knows that the patient will need more than 2 units of blood, they can administer this blood product called fibrinogen, and basically it helps to clot the blood and give the patient that extra life-saving time that they need. Next slide, please. In fall of 2022, STARS flew our longest mission ever, and this was up into northern BC. So Doug McTavish and his friend were on a fishing and hunting trip, and basically they put their boat, put their boat in the river, traveled 5 hours up the river, hiked up into the mountains, and at this time, Doug realized he was having a full-blown heart attack. Well, there was no cell service in the area, so they decided to try in-reach radio to contact their emergency contact. And that contact was trying to figure out how they could reach Doug. They tried search and rescue, and being that it was going to be dark soon, they were not able to dispatch as they didn't have the night vision goggle capability. And at that point, the Emergency Link Center decided to dispatch out of the Grand Prairie base. So from there, they flew to Fort Nelson to refuel and then to Chi House where the patient was located. At this point, things became a little bit tricky where they had to land the helicopter along the riverbank between some trees with the tail end of the helicopter over the river. And then it took all 4 crew members with packs on their back to go across the river and hike up into the mountains where Doug was. Thankfully, they gave great directions, Doug and his friend. So they provided critical care on site, brought Doug back down the mountain and across the river to the helicopter. And then they began their journey back to Grand Prairie. So they did refuel in Watson Lake, then Fort Nelson, and to Grand Prairie, where then our air medical crew went with Doug by Alberta Health Services fixed wing to Edmonton, where he could receive the remaining care that he needed. So Doug is doing very well today. And in all, it was 2,408 liters of fuel burned, 1,763 kilometers flown, 8.2 hours of flight time, and 5.3 hours with the patient. 1 life saved. So we're very proud of our crew and their ability to work in all types of weather and situations. Thank you. All right, so Mountain View County, you, like I mentioned earlier, you are a regional leader with STARS contributing $4 per capita on a standing motion. So thank you for the sustainability that provides for STARS. Next year, you have the opportunity to become a provincial leader with many of those others that were shown on our green map. After your contribution in November of 2026, you'll qualify for logo unveiling for reaching 500,000 in cumulative giving. So being that that's close to winter, we would probably expect that you would want to plan your logo unveiling for spring or summer of 2027. So yes, thank you very much for your support. You are served by 2 bases, Calgary and Edmonton, as well as the hospitals that are on our virtual care program, which allows us to provide critical care anywhere. You've been a partner with STARS since 1988, so almost as long as STARS has been around. A life is saved every day, and your partnership continues to make it possible. So thank you. Are there any questions?
Thank you for that amazing presentation, Jackie. I love the 15-year history. I think that's really spectacular to see how many flights have come to all of the hospitals within Mountain View County. Some great information for us to have and for us to share with our residents. So thank you for that. Is there any questions or comments? Councillor Harris.
Just a comment on the amazing creativeness and flexibility that you guys show. It's when you're presented with a mission with problems, it's not well, geez, we can't do that. It's how can we do that? And you've illustrated that with some of your things here. So congratulations. That's an amazing record.
Thank you.
And it's very exciting to have a logo unveiling for the next council that's going to be coming forward. That's very exciting. And it just goes to show that you don't have to give a lot. I mean, although we do 4% per capita, it sure adds up after all of the years. I mean, it's the $500,000 is that's outstanding. So we're proud to be a contributor to STARS for sure. So if there's no other questions for Jackie, then thank you very much for coming. As always, we appreciate your time and that you come to see us in person once a year, and we're excited to contribute again.
Well, thank you very much. I would also like to note that my colleague, Trina Balkwill, is here with me today as well. And Trina is the Director for Fundraising Development in Alberta. So perhaps she'll be coming to the logo unveiling as well. And I'd like to leave a couple copies of our Horizons magazine with you. And so it's our special 40th year edition. And there's a history of STARS in there, as well as quite a few VIP stories. I think it was also sent out by email, so we'll leave that with you. And thank you again for your support.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Trina. Thank you for your time as well. We hope you have a wonderful day and enjoy the nice weather.
Oh, thank you.
Before it rains again. And yes, you can leave those with Laura. She'll make sure that that they're in a place where everyone can see them. Thank you. So could I have a motion to accept that for information? Councillor Lutz.
Yeah, the council receives STARS delegation as information with no further action to be taken.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion? Councillor Johnson.
Just when I look on page 85 and see how many times that Sundry Hospital has done the transfers and the near Sundry people, I'm thinking that perhaps we should share this with the Sundry folks. I know that in the work that Sundry Hospital Futures is doing, that this might be a useful piece of information.
Yeah, I would suggest that everyone share this with any organization that they want to, because it's a public agenda item and it's great information. Okay, so we have a motion to receive as information. Any further discussion? I'll call to question. All in favor, and that motion is carried. Greg, do you know if Dan is going to be joining us? No?
I don't. I haven't heard from him. I didn't contact him prior. He does have some other issues. So.
Okay. No, that's fine. So we'll go on to correspondence, and then I think it's just looking at Laura for process. It would probably be easiest if we made the motion to go in closed session, and then you could close that down before lunch. Is that correct? Okay. Okay. So let's go on to correspondence items. We have 4 items. We have the Egg Service Board minutes, and then we have 3 contact newsletters. Is there any discussion on any of those items? Is there anything from Egg Service Board that anyone wants to highlight? I do go through the minutes, but sometimes you miss the conversations and such. Is there anything that council should be looking at in those minutes that you would like to draw us to our attention? No? Okay. And is there anything on the contact newsletters? If not, we have a motion on page 297. Councillor Johnson.
I would move that council receive the information items as information.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on that? Seeing none, I'll call to question. All in favor? And that motion is carried. And so that takes us to the end of our open session agenda item. And so maybe prior to going to lunch, we will have ask for a motion to go in closed session, and then Laura can shut down all of the course or all of the requirements. Councillor Harris.
Move, we go into closed session.
Thank you very much. I will call to question all in favor. And that motion is carried. And so council has now moved into closed session, which will end the public broadcast. Any motions made following the in-camera session will be captured within the council's meeting minutes, which can be found on the county's website within the next few days. Thank you for tuning in.